powering up.
Bob over my left-hand shoulder.
As he should be.
As God intended it to be. Mr. Lobo, what a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you for setting this up.
Oh, it's only been 3 years, and then Fox had to follow through, but that's better late than never, right?
You know, I feel like Subgenius time is different than any other sort of time.
Well, that is true.
In some ways, it might be too early. We might want to let it simmer for a couple more years.
We want it to be better, so...
Was pleasure delayed is pleasure enhanced, they say.
Yeah, well, this show's had a chokehold on me for quite a while, so I'm ready for a little release.
Sting said that, right? When he was practicing the tantric sex, I think he said that.
Sting
said that,
from the Police?
Can you imagine the first day that Sting walks into the bar and he says, hey, fellas, I know you all know me as Gordon and stuff, but from now on, I'd really appreciate if you guys would all call me Sting. I wonder how that went over.
Probably about as good as me telling everyone I want to be called Mr. Lobo.
But you're already halfway there when you started with the Mr. Lobo, though. You know, really, I think it's off because I've always known you as Alan B. Smithy, famous film director.
Yes, Alan N. Smithy, actually, on Facebook, I was banned from using my own name, so I figured you don't get bigger creative differences than that. So I decided I'd go ahead and take the Alan Smithy name as far as for the rest of my dealings with Facebook.
Yeah, but you get a couple of Oscars with it.
That's true. One in a trash can and a bag of hot dogs.
All right, here we go. It's time for the show.
So we have a rule. We look at Regis Silver.
What's that?
Save it for the show.
Broadcasting
Save it for the
live
show.
from Hypercube
Oh,
Labs,
now we
deep in
can
the heart
talk.
of the Hypercore and the Hypercube Laboratories in the future capital of the the former Spanish Empire. This is time for the show, your weekly Subgenius Radio Hypercube news update program, broadcast to you from my heart, and whose beating ventricles are bleeding out for you this week? Why, it's me, Dr. Fox, lovable and squeezable as ever. Please don't touch me. And joining me via the Hypercom, it's my favorite. We can't have a show without him. It's Easy Squeezy Reverend Peasy. Say hi, Peas.
Hello.
We're
Very excited to be here tonight, Fox. Oh my God, it's so exciting.
It's super exciting. Not only do we have Aster Six and Flux Rutenberg here in the studio on the sticks, we actually have we have a special guest. Man, we haven't had one of these in a long time. Coming to you all the way from a secret location in another place. It's OSI 74 Cinema Insomnia's very own. It's Mr. Lobo.
Whoa, thank you so much for the warm welcome. It is my pleasure to feign excitement in being here with you today.
Well, I've got 3 years of doing that on you, so you'll have to put more on that.
I'll work on it for sure.
Work on it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for jumping in on the. It's not going through. Did you hit enable? All right. Well, we'll just keep trying. So we're broadcasting live on youtube.com/HypercubeGo and attempting our simulcast on freethinkradio.com. This is episode 157, time for the show. And golly, I think we've capped it off right there. How's Miss Mittens, Mr. Lobo?
Drunk as usual. I was going to have her come on the show with us, but she was unconscious in the bathroom with a couple of underage sex workers, and so I just decided just leave her there and just do the show by myself.
But could probably get a very lucrative job making a cartoon after that.
Yeah.
It would be like Garfield, right? Only it would just be Miss Mittens just doing horrible things off screen, just in the next frame over. You'd hear these horrible noises and police sirens. It would be a good comic strip.
That's
I'd
just
buy
her enjoying her lasagna.
Oh boy, I hate Mondays.
Yeah, so do we.
I see what you did there. This man is a professional. It is unbelievable.
No.
I am honored. Listen, here's the thing. For many years,
Yes.
I thought you were a much smaller man and I could take you in a wrestling match, but I did some research today and you are actually quite tall. You are 6'3". You're quite a large gentleman. You're a big guy.
I used to be 6'4". I lost an inch so far and shrinking.
Have you looked for it?
So maybe it's somewhere. It could have rolled under the couch. I haven't looked there. But I think just being a working artist shrinks you. So I think you lose about an inch every 6 years or so. So you'll be able to take me eventually.
Well, you're either
I
a
think
working
that's your
artist or
soul.
you're flipping burgers. So it's. But you've got
I
a
was
show
wait,
on
hold
your
a second.
shoulders.
Hold on, the flipping burgers thing. I love this because every artist, like, their only two options other than doing the thing that they love is flipping burgers or robbing a bank. There's absolutely nothing between
no in
those two
between.
things. You either your dream job, flipping burgers, robbing a bank. That's it. Those are your only choices in life.
And we can
You
push
think
some of
the
those
tellers
extremes.
Would know. The tellers would ask the guy, "Oh, do you have a showing coming up soon?" When they're getting robbed, they'd be like, "Maybe I could come see you somewhere." "Oh, I'm opening at the zoo. I've got a one-man show. Please disarm the whole robbery."
That's right. And then I'm filling out applications at McDonald's right after the show.
That's out. That's the hypercube lifestyle.
Yes, fantastic.
We keep to it. You've got your own shows. I say
do.
shows, multiple. Is it an apostrophe S? Do you have multiple productions going on right now?
I have multiple shows going on, things that I'm involved in, and then there's projects, which I'm not sure if that's the same as a show or not. But I have Cinema Insomnia, which is a late night hosted movie program in the style of creature features, etc., only with maybe a postmodern absurdist spin to it. And then I also have a channel for Roku called OSI 74, which of course has a Subgenius sub-channel.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Subgenius content on there, thanks to Philo Drummond, who curates that category of the channel. And then
He owes me $6.
oh, damn it! All right, I'll remind him. And there's also a show called Utopia Fantastica that we made 3 episodes of. It's hard to break that 3-episode wall.
See, I
with
told
anything.
you.
Yeah.
I was just telling Flux Rutenberg that earlier today.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think a lot of people understand. This is not a lark or, this is truly your life. You've been doing this for over 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. Is that not correct? And you're quite acknowledged as being somewhat successful in that genre. You talked about in the kind of the creep show or the creature feature type of thing, but you're well respected in that. I mean, you can't go anywhere in Monster Theater talks. The bars I go to, all I got to do is drop your name, and it's free drinks for the rest of the night for me.
Yeah,
it doesn't
this
work
is
for me, so I don't. Maybe it's the delivery. I've been doing Cinema Insomnia for 20 years. We've been doing film shows and stuff longer than that. But it's definitely, I guess I'm lucky enough to where I don't have to rob a bank or work at McDonald's. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing pretty good with it.
well.
He's being modest, ladies and gentlemen. The man has a bobblehead.
I have
Okay.
2 bobbleheads.
Wow.
Let's look at this. Here's the second bobblehead. This is the Spook Show edition of Mr. Lobo's bobblehead empire. And this guy is pretty great because he's got. Hold on.
It's
Oh,
going to
you're
go great
taking
on
it-
our new unboxing channel.
So here
Don't
we
take it
go.
out of the
So I don't know if
package.
you
It's
can
going to
see
lose the
him.
value.
He's beautiful, right?
Wow.
Where is he?
It is exceptional.
Oh, there he is.
No.
There he is. So he gets glow in the dark. His eyes glow in the dark. So you can kind of see that maybe. But his eyes glow in the dark. and then he's got a little button, just like mine, that says they're not bad movies, just misunderstood. And he comes with a glow-in-the-dark Miss Mittens. Here's Miss Mittens. If anybody out there wants to know what Miss Mittens looks like, she looks just like a houseplant you might have at home, only a drunken asshole.
You've got to cite your goal is to have 100 products of Cinema Insomnia and Mr. Lobo themed gear and regalia that people could get. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Let's say I wanted to get some of that great stuff. Where could I go?
Wow, you knew about my goal of 100 products. That's true. I do have a goal of 100, but we do have about 70 products on the shop. They're not all Cinema Insomnia direct related, but the shop we have is osi74.square.site, and there's you can get some OSI74 stuff there. You can get my stuff from my show and some of our art and things like that. So.
How long has OSI74 been going now?
A mug, you could get a mug like this with the hypnotic eye. What was that question?
Can I get a totally integrated encircler there?
You can, but there's a 20-day waiting period.
Oh man, that is an exciting product. I read about it just recently, and I'm thinking that's gonna go places for you, sir.
Well, only believe half what you read.
Yeah, I don't even, as Clay Cool's pointing out in our chat, I don't even think Bob has a bobblehead.
Bob doesn't have a bobblehead?
I feel like I could have seen one somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah, his bobble body's a bob, and then his head's a bobbing bob too.
But he doesn't fall down.
Yes,
but he will stumble the rest of the way. Actually holds out for a teenth.
I wish I could pull down my Weeble's Haunted House that's like right here on my shelf, but that would cause a catastrophe in my home. But I do enjoy a Weeble now and again.
So you got quite the Orson Welles lighting set up here right now tonight. This is very reminiscent of the Great One, if I might add.
Well, the Great One what? That's what I want to know.
I just threw that out there because I was.
Oh, you mean like Jackie Gleason?
I realized as soon as I said the Great One, I'm like, he's a movie guy. He's gonna pick up on the Gleason thing when I was going for the first. I screwed it up, and any other guest would have let it pass, but not Mr. Lobo. Mr. Lobo called me on it right now, and that's the kind of entertainment you get from shows and stuff. It's crazy.
Well, this is a facsimile of the formless void in which we do the show in. And the inspiration from that initially came from the Twilight Zone and Night Gallery. I really loved how Rod Serling would walk into this void, and he seemed like he was not in real time or real space. He was somewhat just to the left of reality somewhere in his own domain. And I always thought that was a cool concept where you're kind of in this envelope of non-reality.
He's the whole reason I started smoking cigarettes.
He did something good for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hey, you wanna play our little show?
How do you play?
Oh man, how do you?
So much fun, dude.
It's the best because, well, I guess that takes us to my favorite part of the show. It's the Pizzo Box, where we answer actual letters by real people that have sent them in to me. Normally, I crumple the paper into the microphone. Do I have the, where's my paper? I have to open the, hold on, I have to open the envelope. There we go. Into the new condenser microphone. There we go. Here we go. And, dear show. And so I'll read the letter, and then we'll all try to help out this poor lost soul. Dear show, my friend keeps inviting me over to watch a movie. I'm scared to commit 2 hours of my life to sit and listen to him deconstruct the philosophy of sadomasochism and Soviet ballet. What do? And that's from Shirley Oblique of Colin Falls, Wisconsin. Mr. Lobo, what do you do when somebody wants you to come over and watch a movie? Do you have a checklist for them on the ready?
It's interesting. Whenever someone invites me to watch a movie, it almost never happens. It's like 25 minutes of troubleshooting, where it's like trying to find the movie. What service is it available on? Maybe we have it on a DVD. Maybe we don't. Then there's another 25 minutes of the audio. Does everybody have their snacks? Getting up, going to the bathroom. So usually by the time everyone is ready to watch the movie, 2 hours have elapsed and there's no more time and it's time to go and we end up doing something else.
Do you get to? I mean, being so involved in movies like that, do you ever get to sit down and really enjoy something anymore?
I try to. I try to. It's interesting because a lot of times I'm watching movies. I'm thinking, can we use this for the show? Would this
Right.
be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
one for the show? But honestly, I do enjoy movies, or I don't think I could survive doing this. I think that what drives me crazy is that people are always asking me if I've seen all of. There's all these TV series now, and they all have like 400 episodes
Yeah.
and I just don't have that kind of time. I know that sounds ridiculous for a person who watches 2 hour movies for a living, but I can't invest myself into a lot of these series. um so I've never seen Walking Dead or a lot of those. Never watched The Sopranos, never watched Breaking Bad, I just never saw any of those things. Not the good ones, the bad ones, uh
Big time
everything in
commitment.
between. What?
Huge time commitment. It's a huge time commitment when you're busy, you know, doing Scooby Doo's and running a media empire. You don't have time for fantasy of Breaking Bad. You're living the dream, man. And that's the thing that I think what this viewer doesn't get is they're worried their friend's going to put the movie under the lens of a Soviet dance troupe and some other thing that I forget. But here's the reality: they only said they were going to watch a movie because they didn't want to go to the bar with you, dude. So you can't think that he's going to show up now. Just tell your friend to shut up and eat the popcorn if he shows up. Maybe give him some sativa or something, and he'll be quiet and it'll be good.
So
And
the
Fox,
the part of the
yeah,
question that I don't understand, I don't mean to interrupt, is the
no,
question
please.
that they're worried the person's going to talk through the whole movie, or are they just not interested in the subject matter of the movies that will be presented?
It could be both.
I think
It
I think
could
it was
be
both,
both.
and you're very astute to notice that. He's worried the guy is going to talk about it, but he's going to talk about it in comparison to some kind of Russian dance literature,
See,
genre or something.
Because I hate watching movies with movie buffs, because they're always like telling you,
Well, they're
oh,
naked.
this person was in these 5 other movies. And then someone else comes through the room. Oh, I remember that guy. That guy was from another show. And then they're on their phone Googling it. Oh yeah, he was in that sitcom that you've never heard of. And it's like, can we just be in this movie and just watch this story and enjoy it? Do we have to
Yeah.
deconstruct all of it? So yeah, I think that's bad form. I would tell your friend that that is bad form. I think once the lights go down, and I do suggest everyone turn their lights down in their house when they're watching a feature.
Where
And then nobody touch the controls. Don't touch the volume. Don't pause it. Just let it wash over you. Enjoy it together in the darkness. And then you can have your conversation after the movie. And then enjoy your time together after the movie together as two
think that's
people
the
who are
best
not
answer.
watching a movie.
That's
I think
yeah.
that's the
Finally,
best
somebody
answer we've ever
that
had
gets
to a
it.
letter, Dr. Fox. What's your answer?
My answer is I want to VHS and chill with Mr. Lobo. He sounds like he's got it
Yeah.
down. No, I'm totally in the same bucket, because it's like you wanna sit in it's, especially if they've seen it before and they're like, oh yeah, watch this part, and I've already dedicated this time to you. I'm sitting here, yeah. I've put it towards you that I'm gonna suffer with you through this, or now I'm the only one, and that's where the sadomasochism is. It's torture. Anyone that invites you over to see a movie is interested in hurting you, and so if it's not on like if immediately on their Netflix and watch next list, you need to get out immediately and probably call the authorities. How many times do you watch a movie before you do an episode with it, Mr. Lobo?
Typically, to create an episode, I have to watch the film about 4 or 5 times. I usually watch it once. The hard one is sitting on my hands and doing the thing that I just suggested, is to just sit there in the darkness and watch it like a real person and try to watch it as a movie and not take any notes and not try to deconstruct it before you even know what it is. So I try to at least watch it once as a viewer so that I have a whole impression of the film before we start. Then I watch it again, and then I take just very simple notes. And then the third time, it's segmented. So I'm looking at ins and outs. Usually, if a film is, my show is like a clock, like a 12 segment clock. There are 12 10-minute segments for a 2-hour show, theoretically. We do them much longer sometimes. But each segment, there's 12 segments, 11 segments of the movie, and then we have an intermission segment. So once I get the running time of the movie, I divide it by 11, and that's the general length of what segment of the movie it is. So it might be 6 to 8 minutes a movie, okay? And then, when we're watching it that second time, it's already chunked up in those 6 to 8 minutes, and I'm looking at what the out is. So what's the last thing that the viewer saw, or what was the last scene that we just looked at, or how do we set up going into this next reel? And so that's kind of how that part works. And then I usually just take all of that, start writing the show, and have it on in the background and recue parts of it while I'm actually writing. So like I said, about 4 or 5 times watching the movie total and writing a show.
Were you into production before you started doing this, or did you feel a resonance with the monster hosts and kind of as public access disappeared, you wanted to bring something back, or did you ever get into like a TV production or a film program in high school?
There's like 25 questions. He's like layering 25 questions on top of each other. He asks the one question, and then he asks the second question, and then he rethinks the first question and asks the same question again with a slight revision, and then he asks the question again, and then he asks the question a third time and a fifth time. Well, let me tell you.
In any order.
In any order. First of all, I do have an affinity for these kinds of shows, always have. I grew up in Northern California. My favorite host was Bob Wilkins. He did a show called Creature Features, and I was terrified of those movies, but I loved Bob's humor, and Bob's humor kept me with those movies. And then when I sort of grew up, I started writing about these sorts of things, and I worked for a magazine called Planet X in the 90s. And we interviewed Bob. I didn't do the interview for the magazine, but the magazine interviewed Bob, and we did a live show with Bob Wilkins, and we showed Hardware Wars, and It Came from Outer Space in 3D, and a bunch of, a Lost in Space episode, and a bunch of psychotronic stuff on 16 millimeter film, and we had Bob there, and I started writing material with Bob for this live show. And Bob was like enormously encouraging. He was like, you should do this. You should sit in a chair and host movies. And I'm like, oh, Bob, people don't do that thing anymore. This is about when we were kids and this cool stuff from the 70s. And it's like, no, these things have a cycle. They have a 20-year cycle. You could be on the front wave of a new era of horror hosts. I'm like, oh, come on. I can't hear these words that you're saying, but secretly I'm like, oh man, are you kidding? I would love to do that. I've been doing this show in the bathroom mirror my whole life.
Sure.
So just because someone encourages you doesn't make it happen. About 9 years later, I had a job at a television station, and a KXTV. It was an ABC affiliate, and I always worked with film and video, so I had a job at the TV station, and they had a movie at 3 a.m. on Saturday night / Sunday morning, and the movie ran 25 minutes short. The reason it ran 25 minutes short is because this station thought of themselves as the news leader. So they gypped the rest of the night by making their news 5 minutes longer than everybody else's. So they had this weird 25-minute hole in the middle of the night with their 3 a.m. movie. And that's where they made up the time, was with that 3 a.m. movie. And so they had 6 and 8 minute commercial breaks in that 3 a.m. movie. And I went to the general manager and I said, you've got this 3 a.m. movie. It's got 6-minute commercial breaks. Most of these are just the same 3 promos over and over again. Have you ever tried to sit through a 6-minute commercial break? And they said, well, yeah, that is we don't really care about that slime slot. And I said, well, if you don't really care, maybe we can create a format and wrap something around that movie and kill that, kill about 25 minutes of time around this movie. And so again, that was the best thing in the world. They didn't care what we did. And so we made a pilot for them to show them, to see whether they like it or not. So I come into work on Monday morning and they're like, where's next week? I'm like, what? Where's next week's show? I said, well, you're supposed to watch what we did and tell us whether you liked it or not. And they said, well, we aired it. You aired it?
Wow.
You aired it last week. You aired it last weekend while I didn't even know the show went over the air.
You didn't even get to see it.
And now you're telling me that you want us to do one in 4 days, right? So we hit the ground running. We did 22 or 24 episodes back to back on a weekly basis with KXTV, and we started getting mail. We were getting 20. That time slot went from a hash marks in the Nielsen ratings, which is no discernible rating, to 22,000 homes at 3 a.m.
Jeez.
So it became a headache for them. If it remained unsuccessful, they would have let us do it forever. But because they got phone calls and they got mail, it was like it was a thing that they didn't watch what we were doing. They couldn't answer anyone's questions about it. So it just became a hassle, and they put us on hiatus. And they're like, well, we're going to move you to a better time slot, and we'll assign one of our producers to your show. And, and it just, after 4 months, I'm like, I'm just going to be stuck here forever. You guys aren't ever going to make a decision on what you want to do with this show. And so I started producing it myself off campus. By that time, this was probably around 2002. There was consumer video was good enough to where you could shoot something broadcast quality in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So we started doing that and submitting it to public access stations, and we did public access for about a year or so, and then I started syndicating it to real stations across the country. The only problem is that I couldn't syndicate it to my own hometown without losing my job. So until I quit my job at the TV station, we didn't have it on in Northern California. It was in other places, mostly the Southeast, and places where
Was it
shoes
kind of
and
a secret? Were you trying to keep it a secret where you were? Like, I don't know.
it was a little, especially when I was still filming it there sometimes, where I would use some of their resources here and there.
Sure. That's
That's
piracy. That's piracy.
Did that answer the questions? Did that answer those 7 questions?
I think
Here's
so.
the thing.
I don't
The
think so.
future Mr. Lobo could be out there, and the recipient, the guy who's writing this letter, all he needs now is for his friend to shut up during the movies when they're watching the movies, and you might be the next Mr. Lobo. But I'll tell you what, that's gonna make it time to go to Fox's favorite part of the show.
Yeah, I got another question. It's
Okay.
perfect because it covered the pre and post production methods. Dear show, I'm undecided on which video format is superior: capacitance electronic disc or U-matic cassettes. And that's from Larry Beard of Mishawaka.
Ooh, that's a good question. Could you say what's the first one again?
I believe it's capacitance electronic disc
Discs
or U-matic cassettes.
U-matic cassettes. U-matic was more ubiquitous, wouldn't you say?
While it was in use, maybe very briefly. That would have been early '80s TV stations. That was a Betamax like SP style.
Yeah,
tapes.
Yeah, it was before Beta SP. Yeah. We didn't shoot on U-matic, but there were a lot of U-matic tapes at the station, and some of the movies were on U-matic.
Oh, great! So you have any special formats that you keep some of your so I don't ask three more questions.
Mhm.
Do you have any favorites in the obsolete media catalog, and do you
Oh,
have any favorite
Like
movies on
Jazz
that?
Drive or
that's
anything
like
like
that's
that.
like picking a favorite child. Well, I've got about 4,000 VHS tapes in my house, and I've got several working machines. I do have a U-matic machine that works, and I do have a Digibeta that works, and I do have a DV Cam deck that works. And the reason I have so many different decks of these, oh, and the Beta SP, I was just mentioned Beta SP. The whole reason I have all those formats is because when we do OSI 74 and we reach out to some of these producers, sometimes the only thing they've got is some weird format from a public access station, and so we're able to digitize it from one of those sources. Usually, I also have a 16 millimeter projector, and I'm a big advocate for 16 millimeter film. I absolutely love that format.
Remember back in the old days when we were kids, you'd go to Kmart and they'd have this one little rack with like two rows of either 8 millimeter or 6 millimeter clips from movies, and you'd sit there like at 8 years old or whatever, go like, I'm gonna get this Godzilla one, then I'll have the whole. You didn't really understand it's just a clip, you know. My
It's a
little kid mind, I was like,
collapsed.
it's the whole movie, you know. It's
It's
like, yeah,
an abridged version, a collapsed
yeah,
version
yeah.
of Godzilla versus the Sea Monster or whatever it is, and it was always sometimes black and white too. So the
Yep,
movie,
yep.
of course, you see as a 2-hour film in color. You bring home the Star Wars one or whatever, and it's 8 minutes long and in black and white, and it's just like the droids meet and the Death Star blows up, and that's the whole thing.
And Luke goes, woohoo!
Yeah, and that's it. If it had sound, if you
Yeah.
got one of the sound ones. But yeah, before
And they were
VHS,
incredibly expensive too. They
they were
weren't cheap to get.
oh, celluloid was very expensive, and there was this fear of letting people buy film because they might be exhibiting it in their homes and charging admission. So I think that was why everything was so bastardized and weird, is they just sort of did that on purpose. But you know what's also interesting, other than I did enjoy those Castle films, those abridged versions on 8 and 16 millimeter. But the other thing that's really interesting is that, you know, when I went to work at the TV station, at one time everything that came in the TV station was on 16 millimeter film. So all the coffee commercials and all the weird episodes of Star Trek, all those things came on film and were strung up on a projector, and then they did like a kinescope kind of transfer live to show them over the air. And then when their license ran up, they would just take a buzz saw and cut those reels in half and throw them out in the trash. And people like my friends and I, we'd go dumpster diving, and we'd save all that film and tape it all back together. And so you'd have a copy of Star Trek that would have this piece of tape in it every few seconds. So, you know, yeah, it's, you know, formats are amazing, and that's one of the things I think when some of these my episodes get restored, I get a little sad, because some of those early episodes that we did, the films that we used were from our prints of those films. And so sometimes when the print is been replaced with a better looking copy for future distribution or a DVD, I get a little bummed, because I like all the hair and, you know, coffee
You should add
stains and
character to
hair
it.
and all the weird dark smudges on the sides and the scratches. I like all that stuff.
Some of those older monster
Patina.
films and all stuff. It's yeah. God, what a great word it is. It's the patina of the genre. It's so great. Oh look, that's a guy's eyelash. It's been here for 4 seconds now. You know how long is it gonna last in this
Yeah,
one? You know.
Night of the Living Dead, right? When you see Night of the Living Dead, you swear it was a documentary film, right? Because it's black and white and it's all grainy and it looks weird. And then they do like a 4K restoration and all that magic goes away. It's like when you watch Night of the Living Dead in its native 16 millimeter television format, you feel like, are we supposed to be watching this? Is this some
Yeah.
sort of snuff film that accidentally got onto
In the
television?
Blair Witch, you know, that original format is they filmed it that way on purpose. Granted,
Mm-hmm.
it was cheap stuff, but they knew what the visual impact would be using that type of medium, And I agree with you. A lot of times, oh, we made it new and improved. You didn't. You really didn't. You took all the magic out of it.
Yeah.
I just put all the plastic discs on my Fisher Price record player.
Your Kenner Give a Show projector.
Yeah, I have to wind it up. We actually had somebody at an X day bring one of those in, and that was because you were able to change it out with the little reels. Yeah, we're surprisingly short on Viewmasters here at Hypercube.
Look at the crappy toys we had to deal with. Viewmaster, you spent $14 to get a 100-disc reel of Disney World, so you could virtually look. I'm too poor to go to Disney World. I could barely afford this Viewmaster. My brother broke one of the eyepieces. It's not even 3D anymore. It's just a glorified slide thing. But yeah, it kept you amused for hours.
You kept picking it back up.
You know why? Because the more you take away from something, the more of the story you get to choose. The more of it happens inside your own head. And if you're a creative kid or if you're a weird kid, the best part of the comic book is what happens between this panel and between the other panel in that white gutter in the middle. Or in a film, it's the thing that happens off screen because it's different every time you watch it. A black and white movie, you're bringing your reality to that black and white movie. And when you watch something on a broken down VHS, you're filling in all that missing information with your imagination.
It's like missing the last couple pictures out of a pictorial in a porn magazine, you know? You have to use your imagination to move forward from that point, you know? You're all stirred up. Yeah. Oh, my brother, that asshole.
We just had to squint really hard at Channel 98.
All right, that's one, Fox. I only did one.
Okay, just one. I've been on P's to keep it clean this year. That's our New Year's resolution. We're going for that big FCC broadcasters exam.
Instead?
Well, we could, and we did that for a while, but then people get tired of hearing it. Here's the thing. He told me, because, like, there's a backstory to this. Like, 2 years ago, we first started doing the show. I'm like, oh, hey, guys, I called up Mr. Lobo, and he'll do the show. And Fox is like, no, dude, I don't want to do the show with Mr. Lobo because one day we're gonna do content for OSI 74, and I don't want him to have his first taste in his mouth of Argus Fox to be this show. So okay, so all right, so we'll practice. So that you know, because like I did my second show and I wrote you and I'm like, hey, dude, you want to be on my show? And you're like, sure. You're such a gracious man. So I go back and tell the crew. Oh, they're like, oh no, we're not ready. So we have spent the last 156 shows doing nothing but preparing for this moment.
Wow.
For this moment.
Yes, time for the show is actually Sanskrit for easily gullible.
Wow. That is the saddest story I've ever heard.
We've been chopping up for this moment, which brings us to my favorite part of the show. Is it a band? So we're going to throw you out a theoretical band name, and we're going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to a song from one of our featured artists over at packslack.com. You ready for your... Yeah, here's how you survive a 6-minute commercial. I'll do it. So what's this week's band name? According to Aster 6, it is...
This week we have Jeff Leppard.
Jeff Leppard.
Now, is that...
Jeff Leppard.
Is that Jeff?
Now, I have to say this quickly. I want to preface this because I feel like everything is a band name.
You would feel that way.
Yeah.
We thought that too, but you'll be surprised.
I don't know.
I don't.
Just because it's not on the internet doesn't mean there isn't some guy out there performing under that name, right?
Correct.
So it's something that can't be determined to 100% accuracy.
But if we can't find them, we add it to the list, and then they got to pay us $1 to use it.
Show and tell you how to play your game. Show and say, hey,
all right,
can't be conclusive. We're doing the tease. We're gonna think about it for a couple of minutes. Listen to the nice song.
All right.
And then we'll come back and you say whatever you want.
I'll think about it.
Don't think about it. That's what we do. We'll be right back with Mr. Lobo on Time for the Show. Let's see if he survives a song break. $5 says he will. We got 4 minutes, everybody.
I'm not hearing any of the music. Is that it?
That's it. Yeah, jump on it.
How many minutes do I have?
You have 4 minutes.
I have 4 still? That's the longest 4 minutes
Yeah, you got
ever?
about 3.5.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go and get a cup of coffee, maybe.
You grab your, yeah, now's the time.
Another cup.
Don't wanna know about your business, so don't take the time. You can skip on the top, but you know how you top. I don't care at all about how you're doing or your self-improvement. How you can get it together when I'm gone. I just wanna touch on your skin, just feel close to you, close to you. I just wanna hold tight like I used to do, used to do. No need to apologize. I don't wanna try to work things out. Just believe I am. Don't have to make the sound. Don't know what I'm doing. Not of excuses. Playing with fire, it's useless.
We still have 4 minutes.
2 minutes.
Like you said, subgeniuses are strange with time.
Just feel close to you, close to you. I just wanna hold tight.
I see something there that I shouldn't see.
I just wanna touch on your skin.
May have bumped it.
Feel close below. See you. I just wanna
What is that over here?
It's like expensive cinema, equipment, projectors probably. It adds an air of mystery about you.
What is that weird thing?
What's happening?
What weird thing?
It's. I wanted to just have it be the blackness, but I see a little something's peeking over there.
Earlier it was.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah.
Is that it? Still there?
There you go. Now it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. But then there's something over here.
Back in the shadows. You're listening to Time for the Show, a production of Hypercube Labs, broadcasting at youtube.com/hypercubego, rerunning on freethinkradio.com. It's my favorite part of the show. It's where I give those shout outs for the week, and it's the top of the month, so this goes out to everybody on the list, including Big Bob South Brother, Other Michael Marcus, Triology Soaps, Reverend Loch Ness, Martha Artha, and Dr. Ellis, Trenchy, Agent Lloyd, Negative at Night, Long Dead, Scalpod, Hazel the Windmills, Couch Sloth, Caller 23, Reverend 80, Dr. Cosmac, and Apostasy X Fenord. They support independent farce. Why won't you? For less than it costs to feed a starving child in Africa, you can support Hypercube Labs at patreon.com facebook.com/hypercube. And by the way, did you know that you are a filthy, disgusting monster? You reprobate. What are you going to do about it? You need to head over and pick yourself up a fresh bar of Triology soaps forged by the hands of Yetis like Lord Ferg. You too can get clean with the power of Triology soaps, available at packslack.com. All right, when we left, we totally put Peas and Mr. Lobo on hold, and it looks like we've still got both of them for now. We asked them, is it a band?
Delicious. Yes.
It's good soap.
Briefly we were talking a little bit about the fact that everything is a band. I put out a record. Now, I'm not a musician. I have a record, a Halloween record called Horrible Noises of Mr. Lobo's Very Bad Manner. And I wanted to do a scary story about dry ice. And I thought, okay, I'll have a rock band, and then the guy ends up getting really bad breathing disorders from inhaling dry ice his whole life. And I thought that'd be pretty scary. And so I thought, is Ice Pirates a band name? And it was. The movie, yeah. I wanted it to be a movie reference. So then it finally came down to Space Herpy was not a band. Space Herpes was a band, but Space Herpy was
the singular.
not.
Yes. I hate when I get just
so
one
we ended up
herpy.
naming the band Space Herpy in honor of Pirates, but we had to go pretty far to find something that wasn't a band name.
Now, you say you're not a musician, but you have released a spoken word parody complaining about how much you hate the song Monster Mash, don't you? I mean,
yeah,
that song.
I have songs.
Which is not really,
I have
a song.
songs.
It's a song about people dancing.
I disagree.
Well,
it's a song about a dance. It's not a song about a song. It's a song about a dance.
Correct. I can see that point.
So
Absolutely
it's like the twist or the mashed potatoes. No one says, "Where's the mashed potato song?"
Correct.
Okay. The twist is a song about a dance.
That's why that's a took though.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Jeff Leppard? Do you think
Jeff Leppard? I say yes, it's a band.
We have a yes from Mr. Lobo. What do you say this week, Peas?
Deep down in my heart, I said this earlier off air that I want it to be something called the Jeff Leppard Band, and they do just Billy Joel covers in the Panhandle of Florida. But I'm not sure that that's gonna work because it is just Jeff Leppard. So I'm gonna say it is not a band, but there's a part of me that wants a world that Jeff Leppard is a band to be a part of Peas' universe.
Going through the chat, the big argument was how leopard was going to be spelled. So I was going to shoot over to Aster 6. How were we spelling leopard?
Excuse me.
As I put in the chat. Sorry, I had to turn the microphone on.
Give a spelling after two contestants have already given their answer with a
Well, that's okay.
non-spelling
It's okay, Peas, because I already put the
aspect.
spelling
It doesn't
in the
matter how
chat.
it's spelled now.
I
Doesn't
already
matter.
spelled it.
I hope it's leopard with the word leper with an apostrophe D at the end.
Yeah, he's a guy constantly losing his limbs across the stage.
Yeah,
You're-
well,
you're
you only need one arm to drum
Mr. Lobo,
anyway.
In the past, the spelling or the pronunciation of the band has been very important.
Oh,
Point.
but we didn't
But
establish
that's-
that.
Well, we had a professional league before, and the bit went on much longer. We just do a teaser with it now.
We now want to
And
get to the
if we're
point,
gonna
Peas.
Bring up spelling, we should have brought it up earlier. It's too
Yeah.
late now. The contestants have given their answer.
Ye-
I don't care how it's.
But yeah, no, I spelled it in the
locked in.
chat as leopard, like the animal, Leopard.
Yeah, I'll say it's a band. Jeff's got some ball.
Some Jeff.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Or we?
Yeah.
Flex Rutenberg, you throwing in on this one?
Yeah,
Hold on,
yeah,
wait,
it's a
wait,
band.
hold on.
It's a
Okay,
band.
hold on. Wait.
If not a singular artist.
Hey, man,
Miss Mitten says it's not a band. That's what she says. So.
On the board from Miss
Okay.
Mittens.
there you go.
Yeah.
Very good. Very nice. All right. Are we
Is
ready?
that our no? And Peas is dissenting. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I can say after some very diligent and not at all speedy and rushed research that Jeff Leopard is.
Wait a minute. Pretty conclusive research, I bet, too, isn't it, Mr.
Yeah.
Lobo?
Yeah, thanks, Pease. Thanks. Yeah, but Jeff Leopard is a band.
What did I say? I don't even remember
How's it
anymore.
spelled? Now it's
Who
important
knows?
how
I
it's
think I
spelled.
did give it to Jeff. So Miss Mittens is out.
Now we argue for 30 minutes. It's just
Yeah.
like a D&D game.
Yeah, except instead of rolling
Roll for
dice,
initiative.
we're pulling the teeth out of our head and throwing those across the table, which peas can do. So we won't push that bit. All right. Well, I guess that takes us to my favorite part of the show. It's the proving ground.
The wrong teeth!
The wrong teeth. So, Mr. Lobo, Aster 6 has a couple of unusual headlines, and what we're going to attempt to do over the next couple of minutes is fire off a witty repertoire from said headlines. And I think we tried to keep them a little weird this week.
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right, what's our first one this week?
All right, the first one is going to be multiple Bigfoot sightings in Turkey Mountain, Oklahoma.
That's weird. That seems like a regular Tuesday in Oklahoma.
Yeah, easily mistaken for New Oklahoma Naturist Resort.
I have to. Scientists question the report as Sasquatch is not known to be native to Oklahoma.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a
Swampy.
skunk
It's
ape?
swampy.
That's
Is
a
he
little
the Momo
further
giant?
south.
Yeah.
We're down here in skunk ape
Oh,
territory.
you smell them
Skunk ape,
before you see them.
Swamp ape, skunk ape, swamp ape, skunk ape, Momo giant. There's some other ones, right? Sasquatch,
Yeah.
Chewbacca.
On holidays.
Yes.
Oh,
What
we're
else?
making a
The
new Mr.
abominable
Lobo soundboard
snowman.
after this
Yetis.
show.
Yeah, the abominable snowman.
Lowland Yetis.
Oh, lowland yetis. Yes.
What's the
Mhm.
one they have in Australia?
Oh.
Kangaroo?
Foot big. Australia's not a real place. Come on.
Yeah.
It was-
I mean, have you or anyone you know been to Australia?
It seems far fetched to me.
Exactly. Doesn't exist.
That
They're
somebody.
all paid actors.
I mean, everything I've heard is that every creature has evolved to kill you, and somehow British people survived. So
There we go.
I don't see that. Maybe they chewed everything to
Sounds
death.
like-
I'm not sure.
Sounds
That's
like
why their teeth
Europe.
are terrible.
All right.
All right, let's move on.
Next headline, Aster 6.
All right, we got mysterious
Show
rumblings from inside Mars.
What was it?
Mysterious rumblings from inside Mars.
Arnold
Bruno Mars?
Schwarzenegger
Inside Bruno Mars?
inside Bruno.
Emergency
It's all-
space
it's all the
rocket of
semen.
Mantex shipped to Mars to ale its terrible tummy.
Arnold Schwarzenegger hasn't tweeted in 2 days.
Get your ass to Mars.
And best governor Mars
Trump
ever had.
sets up new campaign headquarters.
Wow.
Mars 2024.
All right, one more.
This
Yeah, I've got one more. We've got the Peas. I've got one more news story, Peas. One more. Can you do one more?
All right, I can do one more. I
Okay.
like my president for Parkinson's.
Okay. All right, one more. One more.
Very timely.
We've got mummies being paraded through Egypt.
Mummies being paraded through Egypt.
Yes. They're moving museums.
This year's MILF 2021 contest.
There you go, Peas. Very nice. Give him a clap for that. That was a good one. Very nice.
And
Still got it, ladies and gentlemen.
and that's my favorite part of the show. That's I don't know if you guys can get this sound effect.
I just love how we have two boards going on here.
Yeah, we've
you know?
we've doubled
And
doubled
they
down
keep
on
moving
hardware.
around.
Don't
It's so
can't you
complicated,
appreciate our
but-
massive studio
but-
setup? Our across the nation simulcast event.
Yeah.
This is what's a nationwide? That's good. But I think somebody took that.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got? It's my favorite part of the show. It's Pease's apologies, and that's where Pease apologizes for the show.
Already?
Yeah, already.
All right. Well, let me get the board ready.
But
All right.
maybe Mr. Lobo will want to join Pease on this week's apology. So this is where Pease apologizes for everything that's happened on the show this week, and we'll let him start it off. And you, Pease, just throw it over.
All right, well, so here's the thing, kids. I'm going to apologize, not for too much of the show, because overall it was a pretty good show until Mr. Lobo got kind of crazy with is it a band rules and the authentication and verification of it. And I think that we had a great show going until this mysterious guest that we so graciously invited onto the show to learn a little bit more about his show and the wonderful world that he lives in just kind of derailed our oldest and most trusted bit that we've been doing since show one. A show, I might add, that we only made 156 episodes so that we could do this episode with him. So I'm sorry that the show was going good until that point, and I'm going to let Mr. Lobo apologize for the rest of the show. But I had a good time, and God, it's such a wonderful time to spend with you kids and listeners and viewers across the multimedia platform that is Cubism and the Hypercube Laboratories. And you got to remember our tenets, man. Tenet number 1, don't think. Tenet number 2, eat your parents. Tenet number 3, build pylons. What's the fourth one? I might them out of order. There's a
Is
whole
this still the
pamphlet, a whole
apology?
membership kit. What?
Is this still the apology?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
I
He
kinda
goes on for a
little
while.
bit. I'm going to throw it over to you in a second.
Okay.
And I'm sorry
I was
to
just
have
checking.
to explain
I
that
was
part
just
of the
checking.
show.
I was
I
checking
like to
in.
think that sometimes the guests have listened to the show before they come on, but we can't expect the celebrity of the magnitude that is Mr. Lobo.
I don't even watch my own show.
Time
I'm
and
supposed to watch
it's-
someone
yeah.
else's show.
So here we go. I'm sorry for all that, but here we go with Mr. Lobo, and he's going to give a celebrity apology, something we've never even done before.
I
The
don't think
first
I'm ready.
celebrity apology ever. Go.
First of all, I want to say that there's absolutely no one more sorry than I am right now. I certainly want to apologize for the quality of the interview and the quality of the show in general. Certainly want to apologize for Pease in just his general demeanor. He could have put on a clean shirt for the show, and I suppose that perhaps is part of his gimmick to seem completely unprepared. I also am very sorry that I didn't even get the instructions for how the show goes until today. And I was even more sorry that my assistant didn't give it to me until 20 minutes after 9 o'clock, in which I read in the instructions that we're supposed to do a sound check at 9. And I was also very sorry that the Skype information was incorrect and didn't work, and it took an hour to somehow get it all straightened out. I'm certainly sorry for the quality of the apology that you just heard, because I feel like someone should be apologizing for how meandering and thinly veiled passive aggression was fraught through that entire apology. So certainly the apology was probably the weakest point of the show, and so I sincerely, on behalf of the show, apologize for the apologies, and even my own apology, which I'm now apologizing for, because I should have known in advance that I should have been apologizing. So I do apologize for not knowing that I was supposed to apologize, and then of course the quality of the apology, because I didn't know I was going to be apologizing. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I was ever born, and I'm sorry for everyone else that has to suffer through this show and any other show made by these jackasses. Amen.
So will you come back for, like, say, show 300, and then we'll practice practice a little
I
bit
will
more.
practice. Yeah, I'll practice apologizing, and then I'll get that better for the 300th show when you have me back on.
I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been for me personally to have you on the show. I've kind of looked up to you ever since I hit the Subgenius. I'm serious. I think it's serious. I really admire what you do, and it's applause from me. It's obvious to me. It's a labor of love with you. You do a fabulous job at it. If and I say this about myself sometimes, but I'm going to say it about you. If we didn't have a Mr. Lobo, we'd have to make one. And I'm sure glad you.
Well, that is very kind to say, Father Pease. I am having a great time here. I appreciate you guys. I think you two really embody the Subgenius ethic and all of the wonderful aspects of being a Subgenius. This was pure slack in its most native state, I think. This show. I'm glad we could finally do this.
Same.
You know.
I'm glad you were able to make it out. And
And that's why I did. That's why when you were like, "Do you want to do it another time?" I'm like, "No, let's just do it. We've already postponed it too long. Let's just jump in and see what happens." And we jumped in, and look what happened. There was a show, and it was fun.
they blossom out of fields of manure. We are the blossom, and we've got a lot of raking to do.
I got one last question though.
Yes.
This is probably a stupid fanboy question.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for saving it.
I'm trying to not ask a lot of those questions, but here it is anyway. You got one movie that encapsulates what you do. What would that movie be?
Whoa. In what sense? Just in movies in general, or
this is the gold. This is the gold that I mine from. This movie is everything that I need in a movie. You have to watch this movie if you expect to get me, Mr. Lobo.
I mean, it's gonna seem trite, but I think Plan 9 from Outer Space is probably like my all-time favorite. It's because whenever I watch it, it feels like it's 3 a.m, and that is like the best feeling in the world. And every time I watch it, I get something different out of it. But I also feel that way about The Brain That Wouldn't Die. I also feel that way, and some newer movies. Like I feel like I've seen Return of the Living Dead like 100 times, and that's not really.
I like how that's one of the newer ones.
That's a 40-year-old movie is one of the newer ones, but it doesn't have to necessarily be campy. It doesn't necessarily have to be misunderstood. But I do think that I gravitate towards independent productions that don't follow the rules, and I think that does encompass what we do, and certainly encompasses what you do.
Oh yeah, there's no rules, just suffering.
You said we had to wear pants.
Oh, shame on him. I'm not wearing pants. Why should anybody else?
That's the magic of the desk. And all this time, Pease,
Power
I
of
thought
the
you were just
podium.
gonna ask
Sean
him how Chris
Connery-
Jericho
Sean
was.
Connery, if you don't see Sean Connery from the waist down in a movie, you can just assume he's not wearing pants because he doesn't. If he knows he doesn't need to, he won't.
Yeah, for Zardoz, he just showed up, rolled out of bed with that.
The red diaper, ready to go.
You know, they were gonna make Zardoz the giant head. It was gonna be a woman, but he couldn't keep from slapping it all the time. So.
Oh, wow! Right there.
Zinger.
Hey, I didn't say it. He did.
Hey, to be nice, we waited till he died before we told that joke.
Well, what's
that's
the rule?
That's why. So nobody talk about William Shatner drowning his wife until he's dead.
Yeah, or Christopher Walken.
Which one?
Oh God! Wow!
We're gonna need a whole nother row of
Ouch.
apologies.
This got so dark so fast. So dark
Well,
so fast.
Bill's had a couple die on him.
Ooh.
Strangled him with his
Wow.
girdle.
What am I
Oh.
scared of a 92-year-old man?
I'd be scared of William Shatner.
I
I'd be
could take
scared
him in
of
a
him.
fight.
Yeah, you think so? How tall is he?
I don't know.
I think
I
he's
get on
like
the
5'6",
IMDb
and find
5'7". He's a short
I
guy.
thought I could take you, and then I looked it up. 6'3". Shit, I might be talking. That's out of my weight class. got that reach on me.
That's right. I got those orangutan arms and that spastic nerd strength. So what? So that yeah. So what? What favorite part of the show is it now?
It's usually the part where we go over to Dr. Fox's chopping block, which is the big post-show chill out session
Yeah.
that we normally just do over on freethinkradio.com. So yeah, but it's we've had a stream connectivity issue tonight, so I don't think we actually got a successful simulcast. So we're gonna have to look. We're reaching into the budget for the new expansion on the HyperCore, and we're building our multimedia streaming empire over here, one bootleg USB drive at a time.
Did you record it, or do we got to start it again from the top?
I think we should just go from the top and do the intro and everything. That's the easiest way to do it. But yeah, I would say that's show. Thank you for coming out and joining us, and we run through it. Yeah, my favorite part of the show is where we unplug everything and go to bed. But that's where we've.
I feel
that's
like
where we've aimed.
He said that I was his favorite horror host, and then here he is with this Svengoolie garbage.
What, this?
Yeah.
Well, you have we should obviously do plugs for you. You've got you told me earlier you're going to be on you're doing a double feature next Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a plug, but I will be at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. They're doing a double feature of the 58 version of the Blob and the 88 version of the Blob. I hosted Blob Fest in years past, which is at the Colonial Theater, where the Blob movie was filmed. When everyone runs out of the theater, that's where it's filmed. So every year, I before pre-pandemic, I was the host of that of Blob Fest, and I think there'll be a lot of Blob Fest people there at the drive-in this weekend. Yeah, the big plug would be I have 19 DVDs on Alpha Video at oldies.com. I have Cinema Insomnia on OSI 74, which is a channel for Roku. I do a Twitch show every Saturday night. I have a podcast called Sleepless Nights with Mr. Lobo. I guess those are some of the things.
And I complain about being busy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Jeez. Full plate.
I heard that the director, in order to get everybody to leave that Blob theater in such a state of fear, had Steve McQueen break wind in the theater, and after he'd eaten like 50 eggs, and people just tore out of that place.
I thought he just put on a reel of Solo.
That movie came from.
What?
I thought he just put on a reel of Solo.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. There might be some credence to that, because if you do see people running out of that theater, a lot of them are laughing. So there might be some credence to that legend in that by looking at the film footage. What's interesting about him, and I always thought it was cigarette smoke, but it might be farts. But he was so he was so not thrilled to be making that movie. And he was a smoker. He's supposed to be playing a teenager, but he's a 30-year-old smoker playing a teenager. And so when he does his lines in the movie, when they're rolling camera, he just puts his cigarette behind his back and says his line to the girl. So if you look at the Blob, the movie, you'll see wafts of smoke coming up from behind his back, because he couldn't even bother putting out his cigarette to run lines for the movie.
Modern day Luke Perry.
He was forced to do that movie, wasn't he, by the studio? He wanted nothing to do with that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he thought he was too good of an actor for it. I think he thought that that it was a waste of his time, and the sci-fi is kid stuff. And yeah, I feel like he had a bad attitude and didn't want to be there. I talked to a lot of the people who worked on that movie, including Kevin, who was the little kid. Or is it Keith? Might be Keith. He's an adult man. I mean, he's an old man now, but he was the little boy in the pajamas who was in the movie, and he had no nice things to say about Steve McQueen. So I have a feeling that Steve McQueen might be a little real fun to work with.
Well, it's no Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Few things are. Few things are. Can we go out on Puberty Love? Can we play that song?
Yeah, totally.
The San Diego's claim to fame.
Yeah, that's right.
Jack Murphy Stadium. What a great backdrop.
Yeah, it had that's an interesting movie because I think that people. What's weird about that movie is that it's a people treat it like it's a serious movie. I mean, this is a parody of a horror movie. So people go, "Oh, that movie's so terrible," but it's like, well, you're setting out to make a movie that's terrible. So I don't know if that even really qualifies. What I want to know is maybe you have the answer for this, because in every single sci-fi or horror movie, whenever there's a parody of a movie, it's always like the creature that ate blah blah blah, or the chicken heart that ate New York City, or the bloodsuckers that ate Pittsburgh. There aren't any There Ate movies that aren't jokes. I mean, there's the Cars That Ate Paris, but they were already aware of that joke as a convention. So it's like it's an interesting thing where you've got the cliche existing, but you don't have the real thing that supports the cliche as it exists as a parody. But I don't know of they ate movie, the blank that ate blank. I don't know of a real B movie that has that format.
The belly that ate Boston baked beans.
Right.
It's I don't know. It's that torch, that invisible torch that they pass off from each other. Like I'm right there with you, brother. I will carry this on for you. that and the idea that, well, very much like Is It a Band? Just because there's no reels of these films.
Yes,
and you can imagine Alan Smithy amongst others going through piles and piles of scripts that never saw the light of day. Then again, the ones that they pick are always, there are no bad movies.
The Peas That Ate Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think we're working on that one, Dr. Cosmac, and we can get production started on that.
Every movie like that is somebody's dream. It's their investment dream. Like, I'm going to make $1 million in Hollywood. I got this great director, and he's got all my money, and we're going to make, I don't know, just put Eating Raoul, and it's just.
Now that's a good movie.
But it is a good movie. I enjoy that movie. It seems to be getting a bad rap recently, but it was one of my first introductions into the horror black comedy genre.
Yeah.
And I thought it was well made, but. You just see it a lot. People are. There's not everything now is Netflix and chill. I think the whole concept of sitting as a little kid on your floor in the living room, for my case, it was Channel 11 KTLA. They had Elvira on. I'm sure they had a creature feature, but I'm not sure it was the same host because you were a little bit further north of me. But every region in California, I think every region in the country at that time had some kind of thing like that. Sometimes they were Godzilla movies. Sometimes they were old black and white where you'd always wonder, like, it's so dark. It's the middle of the daytime, but for some reason it's super dark in this movie. It was cheaper to, we filmed when we were done with this other thing, and so we did a couple of scenes from this guy while we still had sort of light.
Yeah.
And you don't know the backstories too, but that's what we lived for. That was your Saturdays from the time you woke up and started pounding down crunch berries with milk till the box was empty, from about 6 in the morning till about 4 in the afternoon, was filled of great cartoons, cartoons were all in the morning up front. There was a law that said they had to make cartoons for us. I don't know why they don't do it anymore, but at one time there was all 3 networks had a huge Saturday morning rollout of cartoons that they went to about.
It's because I'll tell you, the parents are drinking Friday night, and they don't want to be woken up too early. And so they started putting cartoons in the morning so the kids could be occupied while the parents are hungover. That is why we have Saturday morning cartoons.
That and
that's why we
Hasbro.
don't have them now, because people got all healthy. They turned into vegans. Once the vegan movement caught on, there was no Saturday morning cartoons.
That's
But
right.
if you were a
And Fruity
hardcore kid
Pebbles
like me,
sales plummeted.
if you didn't have a lot of friends, after cartoons was over, they did a couple of weird shows. They do this thing called Wonderama or Utopia, it'd be some positive kid show. But right around 2:30 or 3 o'clock, there'd be this kick-ass Godzilla theater or a creature feature. There'd be something on there. There'd be some movie. You couldn't even believe they made a movie like this, because when you're a little kid, this is a good movie. Now you watch it through the spectrum of 50-year-old eyes, and you're like, wait a minute, I pissed myself and didn't sleep for 3 nights because of this movie. and this is not a good movie, but that's what we had for entertainment.
Is it not good, or is it misunderstood?
I think it's misunderstood. I think at the time.
What's interesting? People always talk about how the movies today aren't as good as they were back then. It's not that the movies were better; we were better. We were better when we were younger. We were more receptive. We were more open. We were more creative. We were more accepting. I feel like we've all become so cynical, and so we deny any kind of magic. We're constantly looking up the magician's sleeve to try to see, how the trick is done. And I think we've kind of spoiled ourselves.
We're no longer satisfied being entertained. Now we have to explain how we were entertained.
That and instant gratification. You can
couch
watch a movie at
in our
any
first viewer
time,
mail that
anywhere
was like-
you are. You know, you can crank through the Avengers through bathroom breaks on your phone, which is the right way to see that
countersign
film.
to that is also true. Why do they keep remaking series? Why do they keep remaking movies? How many times do we gotta remake Spider-Man? The Spider-Man of my youth in the 80s was really shitty. It was I think an ABC show for a half hour when Spider-Man shot his web. It was just a big, it just had a net that shot out. They tried to tie it into this limited success that they had with the Hulk, so they tried to Spider-Man a couple. But when they made the Tobey Maguire or Spider-Man movie, that was really good. I'm done. I didn't need 3 other Spider-Mans over the course of 25 years, 30 years to keep telling me the Spider-Man story. And I don't understand why there's not a lot of new stories coming out of Hollywood. They do recycle, it seems these days, a lot of stories.
What annoys me the most is not that they're rebooting and not that they're making more of the movies. It's just that they're giving us the same story again and again and again. We've had the same Ghostbusters story 3 times. They start from nothing. They get the gang all together, and they stop a world-ending vortex. There are a million ghost stories that you could tell. We should have gone back and forth across the country with the Ghostbusters and discovered the Jersey Devil and everything else. Indiana Jones should have found everything that ever was lost. But yet, no, it's the same thing. We got the Nazis back. Everybody is. It's like the Star Wars thing. Another desert planet and another Death Star. They're so stingy with the adventures, and it's like, don't you know what genre you're in? These are adventure stories. You just can't. When I was a kid reading Spider-Man, his origin was a footnote. Peter Parker gets bit by a radioactive spider and becomes the spectacular Spider-Man. Boom! That's all you need to know. You're ready for Doc Vulture. Bring them on, line them up like bad wrestling villains. We're gonna go every week. Boom, 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 boom.
Sinister Six.
And for whatever reason, they want these B movies to be treated like A-list movies. We don't have Out of Africa movies anymore. We don't have Gandhi movies anymore. We're trying to elevate this B movie material to this serious adult material, and we're losing all the adventure. It's like origins and deaths with nothing in between. You're supposed to fight the firemen, and then the tree men, and then the ice men, and then the lava men. And that's why Mandalorian kicked so much ass on Disney Plus, is because it was just adventures every week. What's it this week? It's ice spiders. Oh, that's just filler. That's not filler. That's ice spiders, man. They're fighting ice spiders. This is what we're here for, is the ice spiders. So I'm tired of this kind of looking at everything where this clinical, okay, this story ties into this story and this is this person's origin, and I don't care about any of that. I want adventures. Give them to me, and give them to me now. I want to see 1,000 monsters. I want to go to 1 billion planets. I want to burn things and blow things up and shoot lasers and find space women and over and over and over.
I really want to make sure that Frodo makes it over that next hill. Yeah,
He's gonna eat some rabbit stew first.
Yeah. Second breakfast.
and you have to wait for the director's cut DVDs that are got the extra 6 hours of them, making the stew and making it over the third hill.
I got thoughts on that because I just recently saw something that somebody made that was so much better than the theatrical release.
Yeah.
I was blown away because I don't even like those type of comic movies, and this was the best one of DC I'd ever seen. I won't get into it, but I think it's important to note that in the past people took risks. This seems like a good story. It didn't necessarily. They were concerned if it made $1 billion, if it made a profit and people made money, they were okay to make it. And when you see the creativity that takes place in some of the older movies, like how are we going to get this shot? How are we going to make it seem like robots are attacking? How are we going to do mutants and stuff? Everything had to be filmed. There was some. Stan talks about this. There's some rudiment, cinescope where you could cartoon something on frame by frame. But no, these movies didn't do things like that. If you couldn't figure out how to film it or do some kind of dramatic filming where you never saw it, but it was scary anyway, then you couldn't do it. And I think that being lost is a big part of what's wrong now. Everything, whether it's good CGI or not, everything, there is no white margin that Mr. Lobo's talking about. There's no room for your imagination. Like, how did they get here? In the past, we didn't care how they got to the planet. All we cared about is they were on a planet, and look, there is leather shoes as people attacking them. It is the planet of the shoe people, and they are ready to kick ass. We're like, fuck it. We're good to go till they tied them up with them laces, and the shoe people were destroyed. And we were flying back to Earth.
Yes, fantastic.
Rocket on a string, going by a model of the moon, spinning.
I think that what's interesting is that old movies like that are theater. They're theater because there's some theater of the mind happening. Ed Wood came from a stage background. Two people in plain chairs sitting in front of a shower curtain are on an airplane in an off-Broadway play. But two people in chairs sitting in front of a shower curtain in a movie is not accepted in that same way.
Yes, absolutely. It's like when you're at the Italian opera and they throw a red handkerchief out when they get stabbed. You're like, he's dead! Look at the gore! And they do it out of a movie and you're like, what the fuck is this?
In other countries like Japan, they understand that a model of a boat sitting in a bathtub represents a real boat in a real ocean. Whereas when we see something like that in a movie, we are not willing to meet the creator halfway. They're communicating this to us visually, and they're like, I'm not 100% convinced.
Do we blame Spielberg and Lucas? Or is it just, I mean, people keep going to these movies, and they're spending more on going to see exactly what we've covered, rehashed startup material. I know where the Fantastic Four came from.
Well,
just fight Doctor Doom, please.
Right.
It's because it looks
and
good.
And have Doctor Doom wear a mask, for God's sakes.
Yeah, it's this whole premise, and make it. And I don't need to know their origin story because you screw up every time.
Hold on, guys. I hate to say this. I have to do my pitch right now for my Fantastic Four movie.
Okay, let's roll.
Mr. Lobo, I got the call. Mr. Lobo, will you please save the Fantastic Four? Yes, I will help you, and I will save the Fantastic Four. Okay. 1963. Reed Richards and his family, Ben Grimm, they get on that rocket ship on the day that on the day that President Kennedy is assassinated. Okay, they fling through the cosmic rays. Okay, we don't know what happens to them. All right. All of a sudden, we go to Dallas. It's that moment where the shot is taken, and then and a giant guy made out of stone picks up the limousine. Sue comes out of nowhere and blocks the shots from the grassy knoll or wherever the shots are coming from, makes a force field around them. Mr. Fantastic stretches in there and saves the president and the first lady, and these total weirdos come out of nowhere in the middle of the most famous presidential assassination of all time in the 1960s, and they saved the president. And they said, we went through the cosmic rays and we came out before this event happened, and we had these powers and we knew that this was going to happen, so we used our powers immediately to try to stop it. Because President Kennedy isn't assassinated, we're now established in an alternate timeline. Okay, we go to space in 1965. Cosmic stuff happens all the time. It's like crazy weaponry has to be created because there's these Men in Black kind of situations. Because now that we've gone through the cosmic rays, they know we exist. The cosmic forces know we exist, and we live in constant threat of all these cosmic enemies. That is the Fantastic Four franchise that I want to see. It takes place in an alternate 1960s with President Kennedy as their boss.
And Michael Cera as Dr.
I
Doom.
gotta say something. And I hope you're watching on YouTube. He talked about the Invisible Woman and pose he made where she's putting a force field around them. Dude, I thought that Mr. Lobo was Sue Storm of the Fantastic Four. That is how much he channeled her from the panels of the comic. The gesture of the hand and the positioning and even the expression and inflection in his voice all spoke to me as Sue Storm. Dude, you're a genius. You need to be in the Smithsonian in a little glass cage where people can come up like they do the ducks and buy like a little 25-cent Dixie cup thing of food to feed to you as you do stuff in the Smithsonian. I would pay for that. I would pay 35, 40
I could
cents.
just masturbate in my hand and throw it against the wall. Yeah.
No, but
yeah. Sounds great. Sounds like that's the life.
Why do you think the canon, the number one seller before there was X-Men, before there was the Avengers, there was the Fantastic Four? It's really not so much Stan's hit because Stan put his name on everything, but really Jack Kirby really cracked. This is gonna be something, okay? Why can't they take that, the greatest Marvel story ever told? The premise of it all kind of stems from that. Why can't they make a good movie out of that?
Because it is about imagination. It is about Monster of the Week. It is about embracing your most exciting childhood fantasies, and the money people are too scared to really fully embrace something with that much wonder and magic in it.
And when they do, it doesn't always seem to come over the best, or it ends up getting like the big CGI treatment, the Owl Guardians movie and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
They try something like that.
Or with the Hobbit, where
Don't forget Shrek is a children's book. So everything that's what we have to do is start working on the big Subgenius Kids book, and then we'll get that made into a 12-part movie series where the first 3 will just explain where paper comes from. That's the idea.
I guess if you could establish something as I guess if it succeeds in one medium, then someone will want to replicate it in every other medium. Right?
As long as there's something already selling,
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be the key.
Like, what is the movie Clash of the Titans?
Yes.
Considered the greatest and I'm going to use the word claymation, but it's not really claymation. It's
Stop
what-
motion.
Stop motion
stop
animation.
stop
Claymation
motion.
is a registered trademark.
Of Will Vinton.
Yes.
Will Vinton. California Raisins are claymation.
And that creepy
Ray
rabbit in
Ha-
the Moonwalker video.
Ray Harryhausen is stop motion animation, or actually, technically, he had dynamation. He called it dynamation.
And super
Yeah,
dynamation.
Because he had the base of the model, he would switch out arms and stuff for his shots, and he'd have
We talked
100
about
different
this.
arms for each thing.
Dr. Hal and I talked about this.
Oh,
I-
well, I mean, not fun house. But here's the thing: wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if they made a movie like that today on purpose?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what do you mean
With
on
the
purpose? Because there's still.
Mars Attacks was supposed to be that.
Yes, and most people don't know that act thing was. They wanted the Martians to say words, but they didn't really want to write out the dialogue. So we're not even sure they're going to make this. So just make them say act. And when they went to make it, they were like, "Oh, we're not spending more money on this. That's funny. Make them just say act throughout the whole thing."
Yeah. And Ernie Fasilius, who created Hardware Wars, did a lot of the ACACs, recorded a lot of the audio ACACs from that.
Wow. Hardware Wars is a classic.
Yep.
God, who was it in that movie? So many people in that movie. Every time I watch it, I see somebody else. I'm like, this guy's in it too.
That was very inspiring to me. That was the only VHS tape I ever stole from the video store was Hardware Wars. Actually, it was the Warner Brothers. It was called Hardware Wars and Other Film Farces, and it had Closet Cases of the Nerd Kind, Pork Lips Now, and Bambi Meets Godzilla.
Oh yeah, I've got.
And I was a very good kid, and I turned to A Life of Crime. And I'm like, I don't know what happened to that tape. And then they had to spend, my parents had to spend $80 or whatever to replace that tape.
Blockbuster or Hollywood Video?
It was neither of those. I don't think either of those existed yet. I think it was some mom and pop video store.
Armenian mom and pop place. You're lucky you still have your thumbs.
It was one of those places with the beaded curtains in the back.
That's where the really good videos were. Absolutely.
You, my friend, you look like you're looking for a special video.
Please don't greet me as I enter, sir. This is a one-way transaction, if you don't mind.
Not to worry. When you leave beaded area, I not look at you and I.
I had a friend who worked at a adult bookstore, and of course, they had all of your bondage gear and all your hardcore stuff, and there were the 25-cent videos that you could go watch upstairs. And my friend would always say, aren't you worried that someone is going to see Mr. Lobo in this shop? And my answer to him was always, if they're in this shop, they're worried that I'm seeing them.
Yeah, sure.
So if they have to cop to being here if they see me in this shop. So no, I'm not afraid of being seen in this shop.
Aren't you terrified that you'd be in a shop like that and somebody go, "Oh, Mr. Lobo, I love all your films," and then everybody else in the shop is like, "Where's these films at?"
Yeah, I've been in 400 movies. No.
Shot in one weekend.
Every time I'd interview a porn actress, I'd always ask them how many movies they've been in, and they're always like, 623, I think. And I was like, oh my God, that's more than Vincent Price. You're a national treasure.
And just as many lines.
You're going to be in the Smithsonian next to you.
Yeah, you'll be in that glass case.
Yeah.
Getting fed
Have
peanuts.
our own feeding machine
Yeah.
in front of her.
Grind up some sunflower seeds. Here you go, honey.
What's made out of?
Yep.
Slim Jims and Tic
Got it.
Tac?
You got to use the goat hand, okay? If you're gonna feed a porn star, you got to use the goat hand because they'll bite. They'll bite you. So you got to keep your palm. Keep your palm.
Best you can hope for.
Keep your palm real straight so you don't get bit when you're feeding them in the Smithsonian.
Well, that works with.
I snuck some sugar cubes in. Is there a movie that scarred you? Because I can remember my 2:30 matinee film that absolutely upset me for years, which was Evolver. So I'm showing I'm the baby, but it was
what are you 25? How old are you?
Just a snuggly. Oh, do you really want to know?
Not really, but
yeah,
you could tell me.
We'll just pass it. Pease will tell you. He's got a bio on me.
Yeah.
But it's Evolver totally scared the hell out of me.
Evolver?
It was the robot toy with the
Oh.
artificial intelligence, but it was like
Oh.
a military experiment that ended up out in the real world. And
I think
it starts vacuuming up ball bearings that everybody keeps a bucket of ball bearings in their house to knock over, but it vacuums them up and then fires them out of their little dart gun and pelts a few people in the head, and that made me very suspicious of any robot toy in my household for several years. That and the soul sucking vacuum. I can't remember.
There was a movie. It was a Hammer film, and I always called it The Crawling Hand for years, but that's a different movie. That's about a spaceman that something happens to him and his hand is disembodied. And that's a black and white film. But there was a color movie with an undulating crawling hand that looked very realistic, and I think it was a Hammer movie, and I think it was called And Now the Screaming Starts or House of Blood, or I'm trying to remember the name of it now, but I had bedwetting nightmares for weeks. That hand had my number on it, and I just remember it crawling on the floor and the red jelly coming out of the back, and my dad saying it's just a rubber hand. My dad, of course, knew nothing about special effects. It's like it's just a rubber hand. They've got like raspberry preserves, coming out of the back of it, and then there was this epiphany where it's like the things I see on television are imagined and created by people and not just to torment us. Like it was like this whole light bulb over the head. So it went from being the thing that haunted my dreams and made my life miserable to the thing that made me want to make things and make shows and try to upset other people.
That's
so you're saying your whole
Pay it
childhood
forward.
consists of thinking that you're being tortured in some kind of hell, being presented with crap from television that's inflicted upon you, and it was only upon the wisdom of your father saying, it's just raspberry jelly, and rather than saying, with no seeds, Dad, yeah, you go, wow, wait a minute, people make this shit up? That explains a great deal, my friend. That explains a great deal. There's two things. The first thing I ever got scared by as a little kid was not television. It was CBS Radio Mystery Theater, which was something that came on Monday through Friday back in the day on CBS affiliate radio stations. And it was literally like the 30s or 20s or 40s, a radio show. And sometimes they were mysteries and sometimes they were they always had some kind of dark undertone. And I remember one scared me so bad I told the babysitter that I saw a ghost, and then she grilled me a little bit. Turned out, well, the ghost came out of the radio when I heard this. I'm like making it all shit up. But the first thing I can remember that really terrified me, like you said, peeing your pants, not sleeping for 3 days, was The Exorcist. And I that had to have been fairly old. I'm not gonna say I've got to be 10 or 11 because I'm 56 now, and it had to have been on broadcast television because I couldn't have seen The Exorcist in the theater.
Yeah,
but I
was X-rated. I think. I don't think they would have let a child see The Exorcist.
But there was some, maybe I got cable to come in. I wasn't watching Cinemax boobs or something.
I saw it on TV for sure. Yeah, it did upset me.
So terrified. And I grew up as a Catholic. I went to Catholic school.
Yeah, so that stuff's real. That's what's happening out there.
I'm like, holy shit! You talk about documentaries. This poor little girl. They better get her to church or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I watched it I want to say a few months ago, but I'm old and I've done a lot of narcotics in my life. It could have been a few years ago, and I could not believe that this movie, with the jaded age of where cinema and the genre and the whole art form has taken us, I was like, really? This scary?
This is the one. This is the one that got you.
Yeah, and it's almost comical now, but
Bob Wilkins did a great bit with that movie on his show on Creature Features. I thought was so dryly funny and brilliant. But they had a contest where you could see a screening of The Exorcist by yourself in a movie theater, and they had an armed guard stand behind you to protect you from the movie. So I mean, that's like more unnerving, right? A guy with a gun standing behind you the whole time, and you're like just you and this like underpaid security guard in the dark watching The Exorcist in a movie theater. I just thought that was the most brilliant, hilariously funny thing I'd ever seen.
And it's probably the friend of that guy who wrote the letter, and the whole time he's telling you about this part. Watch this part. Oh, careful, it's gonna get scary.
Yeah,
You really hope the guy with the gun has seen the movie already too.
What?
You really hope that the guy with the gun has already seen the movie as well.
Yeah.
You don't want him to get jumpy.
Yeah.
You'll have Barney Fife when she twists her head.
Yeah. Or oh no, now I've seen everything. Just the security guard shoots himself in the middle of it.
Oh, Mr. Lobo goes really dark.
Yeah, boy. Then what? Then you're alone with a body watching The Exorcist.
For a little while.
Yeah, the doors are locked till it's over.
Blood's all over your popcorn. You can't even knock while you wait till you let out.
Unbelievable.
Dante's at the 14th level of hell.
But it is interesting because, like, my wife is probably Dr. Foe's. Is it Dr. Foe?
It's Fox.
Oh, Fox.
We got one. We got one. Woo!
Is you wait for a Foe for each episode? I thought it was Dr. Fox, but I always say Dr. Fox, but then I'm like, well, I guess it depends what the joke is, right? The joke is that it's Dr. Fox, but it's spelled Dr. Foe.
See, he even knows how to explain the jokes. He's the best guest ever.
But with The Exorcist, my wife is maybe your age, I'm thinking, because her generation found The Exorcist hilarious. Like, just, she was a little kid watching it and was laughing hysterically, and all the adults were like, what do you mean? This is so serious. I'm turning this off. You're not taking this seriously enough. So
the devil gets you.
Yeah.
No.
You watch this movie.
That's what I grew up with. There were a lot of religious overtones, and that was what flew through when The Exorcist came on. It was like, that's what's so scary is that this stuff really happens.
It tries to explain the first movie to you. So they have this whole sequel, The Exorcist 2, and all it is trying to explain to you what the devil is and how this one devil keeps going, and it's the thing you complained about earlier, Mr. Lobo. I don't want the devil's backstory. I just want an adventure. I want a new little girl that throws up and spins her head around and shoves a crucifix. I don't need to know why the devil's doing it. I don't care that he's got bees involved and shit like that. Just have him possess somebody else and scare me. I don't need an explanation for the first movie.
I know what I paid for. I feel the same way with like superhero movies. It's like I paid to see a guy fly and punch people. I don't need to have that explained to me why he does that. I don't need to know Batman. I never knew Batman's I didn't know Batman's parents were shot until the Super Friends. There was Batman was just a cool rich guy who just, could do whatever he wanted to. And especially on the TV show, they never talked about his parents being murdered. And I never got the satire of the old TV show. Those were dead serious when I was a kid. I thought Batman and Robin were going to get boiled in oil every week, and I wasn't laughing at all. So anyhow, I didn't know Batman's parents were murdered. I don't even think that needs to be a motivation. If you're an eccentric rich guy, you can just put on a bat costume and start fighting crime. You don't need a backstory.
But
so anyway,
Elon Musk doesn't have a backstory.
Right. He's just a rich guy who can do whatever he wants, and he wants to be a bat. Whatever, doesn't matter. So, Super Friends, Saturday morning cartoon, Challenge of the Super Friends. The Scarecrow has some sort of device that makes everybody see their deepest, darkest fear. And Bruce Wayne sees the alley where his parents were murdered. And I'm like, whoa, this got dark for a Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah. Where did this come from?
It's coming on at 10 o'clock in the morning.
It's 7 a.m.
Wonder Woman has just flown in on the invisible plane for a birthday party. And then Batman is sitting there crying about dead people.
Yeah.
It harshed the whole Land That Time Forgot that came after that.
So anyhow, that was the first time I'd ever had any sort of whiff that Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered, and that was really part of his origin, because really that's Spider-Man's gig. It's like,
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben, and he talks about it all the time. It's like he almost quits every other issue because of how bad he feels about blowing it with his uncle situation. So
He has some rice
and
he feels
the
better.
duality, that's real Spider-Man too. It's like, Spider-Man's really getting in my way of my life, and I've got weird villains trying to sleep with my aunt. He's just tired of it, right? So that's not Batman. Batman is Batman. There's no duality. He's not conflicted. All that stuff is all manufactured, in my opinion. And like every movie, it's like a punchline. There they are in the alley again. Bam, bam. There's the gunshots. There go the pearls. Oh, he's at the grave putting another rose on the. Bam, bam. There's the shots again. There's the pearls. Let's remind you why he's Batman. Every movie they have
when
to.
they're writing the movie, they're like, Jesus, we need like 6 minutes of filler, and somebody in the bullpen goes, oh, let's do his parents dying.
I don't understand that. It's like
We got
like
stock footage.
the thing is that Superman. Everyone knows Superman's origin, and I understand that he's the son of Krypton. He comes from another planet. That definitely gets you pretty far if you don't know anything about Superman.
Killer rays of the sun give him his powers. Krypton was a red planet or red sun, so he doesn't have no powers.
And my God, that TV series that they've got now, I didn't watch any of the actual series, but that 5-minute buildup of him coming down from Krypton, him getting the suit, and he saves this little boy, catches a car, and he just talks about the values of his parents and how he grew up in Smallville and that people were important, and it sets that thing up so beautifully to where when he stops that car, you know why he's the biggest Boy Scout in the world, and it makes total sense. And then when that kid says, that's a crazy costume you're wearing, and he's like, my mom made it for me, and you want to cry when he says that.
If I redid Superman, though, I would have him get found by Ron Jeremy, and then he would be like a porn star, and his whole path would be different. He would have the same uniform and stuff.
Yes,
but when you ask him that question, how many movies you been in? 75,000. Because he's Superman.
And just a pile of women that he just split in half like wet pine.
Yep.
Boy, that would be a great series for children. Yeah, good job, Peas. Fantastic. I think but I think that the fact that the thing is that Superman is Superman. Clark Kent is his beard. Clark Kent is his. That's just something to where that keeps Lois and Jimmy safe. Clark Kent, you know what I mean? He is the son of Krypton, and it's not a question of duality. It's just a question of how can I just live among these people and find out what's going on, so that I can be the most helpful. Because if I'm in my red suit all the time, they'll see me coming a mile away. But I think that what's interesting is that everyone thinks Batman's so cool, and Batman is like a motorcycle lawyer. You know what I mean? He's like a rich guy who could just put on leather and pretend he's deep. Whereas I feel like having to do the right thing all the time must be soul crushing. I feel like there's so much depth to trying to be a good guy in a bad world that they don't mind for stories. It's like how lonely that's got to be when you've always got to do the right thing. I mean, I feel like they could make that character relatable and cool in a totally different way, and it's like, let's make him Batman light. Let's give him a black outfit and make him Brood. Let's have him break General Zod's back. It's like, what are you doing? That's a different guy. That's not Superman. You're just making Batman again in a different costume. Anyway, that's my rant. That's my Superman rant. Tip your waitresses.
Batman could have been a video store clerk.
He just happened to be rich.
Yeah, would you like to go behind the beaded curtain? a video of my parents being snuffed. Better bring it back rewound. I got pictures of Superman doing it.
Oh boy, it boggles my mind that they've made so many movies with these characters and have blown it so bad for the fans so many times. You know, I mean, I'm not even a fan of Harley Quinn, but Harley Quinn is popular with people because of one thing: Batman the Animated Series.
Whoop.
Batman.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and that's probably one of the best Batmans is Batman the Animated Series.
Absolutely, because they did get in the mind of that character and establish that rogues gallery and establish that world in this cool noir 40s detective or pseudo 40s postmodern futurism 40s, right? And it's perfect. It's perfect. And what Harley Quinn is in that is that she's the Joker's Maul. Just like if you had a gangster in a 40s movie, they'd have the Maul, which is his number one henchman, who's a lady who's tough as nails, right? That's it. That's who her character is.
It's Bonnie and Clyde rewrapped.
Bonnie and Clyde, right? And the two of them have this dynamic that's very romantic, and I understand that. And she alone has a power because she's, you know, everyone's looking for strong female characters, and I understand. It's like, well, here's a character everybody already likes. Okay, let's do something with her. I get all of that, but we've had the first Suicide Squad movie, which is horrific. The Birds of Prey movie that made me want to pluck my eyes out because it's like Lady Deadpool. You could see like the napkin notes. Lady Deadpool. Can we do this? Can we make Lady Deadpool? I think so. I think what can we use to do that? So Suicide Squad, in my opinion, was very misunderstood. I mean, when you spend $400 million, it's hard to give people a break on how misunderstood a movie is. But so they made these movies with Harley Quinn and they failed. Let's just not talk about whether I personally like them. They didn't do well in the box office. They didn't do what they wanted them to do. The reason that, and now they're making a third movie with Harley Quinn. The reason that it doesn't work is that we have not established this relationship that was established in Batman the Animated Series. We're trying to establish a movie on the good graces of a cartoon from 30 years ago. We needed to have a Batman movie with the Joker that also had Harley Quinn. If we don't have that movie, then we can't have a Harley Quinn movie that works.
Identify with the Harley Quinn thing. So here's my thing. You're a big movie guy. I have to share something with you. And
yes,
the Justice League, when it came out as a theatrical release,
yes,
I could not watch it. I've tried to watch it a couple different times.
Yeah.
I never get through it.
Yeah.
Recently, HBO released the original director's cut. It's 4 hours long. I had to break it up into 2 hours. Best DC movie I ever saw.
Really?
I could not believe that it was the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
It's hard. I know that they shot a lot, so it's almost not the same movie because I think that he didn't even look at what. I don't think they used any of the footage that Josh Whedon shot. So it's totally. I would almost say a movie that was started that was then remade without seeing the movie that was finished before. So he didn't look at the other one, the completed movie of the other one. He just went ahead and made the movie he intended to make. I do like Zack Snyder. My only problem with this, and this is going to be hard for me, is because I don't think that the DC characters need to be the Watchmen.
Maybe that's why I liked it. It's pretty.
I like the Watchmen. But the Watchmen is a deconstructionist version of superhero stories. If we don't have any mainstream superheroes, what does a deconstructionist version of a superhero story even mean? Again, we're going on the good graces of comic books we read 40 years ago. I would love to see. I would love to have seen I just would love to have seen a contemporary solid version of Superman, a contemporary solid version of Batman, and I don't think I personally haven't gotten that.
Just wait, they're gonna make him again, so you might get another chance. They'll do it right.
But it'll
They
be in
are.
3 parts, and the first 2 hours will be Bruce Wayne's parents dying.
And also,
Like how many times do we got to make a Star is Born?
I don't know.
I mean, this is, it goes back to it again. Why do you keep retelling these stories? At some point in time, when a director made a certain thing, like I would never remake, and this is actually a crappy movie. I go from liking this movie to disliking it, but A Day in the Life, the Jimmy Stewart movie. Okay, the big. Sometimes I really like that movie. Sometimes I think it's really.
Are you talking about It's a Wonderful Life?
It's a Wonderful Life, correct? I'm very common for doing that.
Yeah.
But my thing about it is that movie is what it is, and it is a classic. To remake that now, it's just stupid. It's why do we have 3 different versions of Spider-Man? I will say, and I know you don't watch, and you talked about how you don't like this, but I did watch WandaVision with Disney, and I thought that if you know Wanda backstory and how tortured a person that she actually is. And I know this from the Avenger days when she was married to Vision. Like you said, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
They beat that out to us little by little.
Yeah.
They actually went back to like the original. It's with the whole Marvel Universe trappings, but if you had read and knew about Wanda and the Vision struggle and all the things that she did. I mean, Marvel itself split the whole Avengers series into the New Avengers because it turned out everything in the Marvel universe had been a concept of Wanda's imagination is a manifestation of her mental illness, and they kind of do it in a Disney-esque way. But again, like I said,
I liked WandaVision. I was not one of those people who disliked WandaVision.
Well, I only said that because you say you don't have time to watch a lot of.
Okay. I did watch that one.
And you enjoyed it as well, right?
I did enjoy it, and what I did enjoy about it are 2 things. One, I felt like it was something. Every week was something I hadn't seen before. So that part of it was exciting because there was a where's it going to go next kind of aspect of it.
A lot left in the white part of the margins, right?
Yes, right.
Yes.
And those margins were a week long. So we watch it on Friday and we talk about it all week. We look at the fan theories and we talk to each other. And then when that next episode would drop on the next Friday, we get that next breadcrumb. And that experience of being allowed to ruminate on it and enjoy it and take it in and watch it and absorb it and then talk to your friends and theorize about it and argue about it and then get that next piece. That was what adventure serials are made of. That is what a good comic books are made of. Dropping 30 episodes at once would have sucked.
I was listening to you earlier, and I had my little WandaVision analogy earlier, and you were talking about serials, and then you said, well, I don't like it when they string things together with all the other movies, and I knew that it intrigued into a couple of new projects, so I said, I better not say it. He's going to think I'm a chump. So I'm glad that we circled back to it, and you did like WandaVision, because I really did feel it offered a lot. Each week was kind of like you said, you're left, what did I just watch? And now I got to use my imagination. What's going to happen? And when they did a couple of reveals really late in the series, it's Gladys all along.
Yeah.
I thought it might be Gladys.
Yeah.
I thought that blonde chick was going to be the White Witch.
Yeah, I was thinking she was going to be the White Witch too. Yeah.
But that's a red herring. That was to throw us off the Gladys.
Yeah.
It's well done.
Yeah, and the whole they played our expectations against us by bringing in the Quicksilver from the Fox universe.
Yeah.
It was very. Like I said, I thought it was well crafted, and I think the thing about it is, I almost wish they explained less. I would have liked more question marks, but I think that to make it consumable, already people were tearing their hair out after the 3rd episode, so they had to start explaining things and with the quickness. But the things I did like about it were the things that were left unknown. That's the part that there's supposed to be the one person that's in the witness protection program that's in there too. So
Yeah.
the thing that I don't.
The biggest problem with that whole series is Marvel didn't think out the whole White Vision thing when they created it, because that's kind of a bad. That's kind of a. What's the guy's name? He's the White Vision. Oh, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna come back as some kind of supremacist dude.
Well, what happened now? Now it's just you and I. They just bailed out on us.
No, still here, just focusing camera shots.
Oh, okay. All
No,
right.
I was setting my DVR for the new Uncle Ben serial.
The only thing I would have changed, the Uncle Ben series. The only thing I would have changed in that is at the very end when she's in the cabin and she's looking at the book, the Doctor Strange's book. It would have been interesting if Vision showed up at that cabin at the very end, even if it's just his boots landing on that porch. I feel like that would have tied it all really nice.
I know they made a movie, but this is the thing. When I was a kid, I was a big Defenders guy. I liked Hulk and Valkyrie and Nighthawk. I mean, they had a lot of characters that came in and out of the whole Defenders core, but it was screw the Avengers, man. Defenders all the way. And then there was the Avengers Clash. I'm so frustrated with Marvel right now because they have still screwed around with. We've got to have like 18 movies to explain everybody's. He talked about this earlier. Everybody's origin before we really release the real Defender movie. And it's like, no, just release the movie. We all know who these people are. Let them have an adventure. Let them go kick.
No, that's what happened to me when I went to go see the Avengers. I was on ecstasy and went to go see the Avengers. And I was like, this sounds perfect. And by the first 10 minutes, like I had already seen, all right, I know where these guys came from, and I ended up falling asleep on drugs at the Avengers. I didn't even finish it. It was just that boring to me because everything is. I know I don't care where everything comes from, and
there definitely is a lot of over explaining in movies, and I guess that again, it's interesting because I think that they're just you had asked this question about the Fantastic Four. Is a part of it is that I think that that CG that they're so reliant on takes so much time. That might be part of the equation as to why there's so little of the adventure process when you've got characters that are have to be fully animated from front to back.
And give them a backstory if you're George Lucas.
Yeah.
Every I-beam has a story.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel George Lucas only made two good movies, and that was Star Wars: A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I can kind of get. Well, he didn't direct Empire. He produced Empire.
He didn't direct Empire. The where it went wrong, I'll tell you right now. They added the episode numbers. They should have never, ever, 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 ever added the episode numbers, and they should have never, ever, 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 ever said, "Oh, we had 3 planned all along that were supposed to happen before this, and another 3 planned all along that was supposed to have happened." That is a shell game. That is a bold-faced lie, okay, and a lie that we all bought into and waited forever to see the conclusion of. If it was just Star Wars: A New Hope, Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, Star Wars: Greedo's Last Stand, whatever it is, they could have put 3 movies in between Empire and Jedi. They could have put 3 movies in between Star Wars and Empire. They could have gone back and told a story about what happens before Luke Skywalker. They could have gone forward and told a story about what happens after Luke Skywalker. But we're so obsessed with this chronology when the powers that be don't have their murder wall with the yarn and the pictures and this happens here and that's there.
And my
they
shipping
don't have
table.
Any of that. They don't have any of that. it's just like, okay, what's selling now? Teddy bears? What? Gummy bears? Okay, we'll put Ewoks in this one. And what else do people like? Okay, well, all right, we'll do that. We'll have a dumb song in there. And they're just putting on a show. And they're going to put whatever elements in there that they think an audience wants to see. They don't care about what the canon of the whole thing is, because they're not in the business of telling an epic story. They're in the business of pleasing an audience. And so,
or fulfilling merchandising rights.
Or fulfilling merchandising. And that is, again, it's the magic trick. And when Disney buys it and says, well, we're just having them rewrite it another time, and we're going to reshoot this whole half of this whole episode because audiences don't like it, and they totally blew the magic trick that they don't know what they're doing, that it is always made up as they went along.
When you have to call Ron Howard in to fix your Star Wars, something's gone wrong.
Hey, he's been to space. He's an American hero.
That's right.
Well, what about Rogue One? I enjoyed Rogue One because that was more Star Wars than any of the other Star Wars that had come out in a long time.
We finally got to see Darth Vader do some Darth Vader business. And I would say that's the most thrilling scene in that whole movie, is when Darth Vader it goes wild trying to get those data tapes at the end of that. And that was an afterthought. They filmed that whole movie and went, it needs something. Darth Vader.
I've never been able to make the jump that whiny little bastard Anakin could become the villain that Darth Vader is.
Yeah, don't you want to feel bad for Darth Vader?
Like, where did you get this side? I know you killed some younglings and stuff at the Jedi Temple, but still, it's not Darth Vader level. You're sitting there crying with some Band-Aids on your arms and stumps, and that's the last we see of you, and the next thing you know, you're choking people midair.
No. The problem, again, it's the magic trick. The mask is the magic. The cape is the magic. Dr. Doom is that mask. And when they do Dr. Doom for the Fantastic Four, we better not see what he looks like ever.
He's Uncle Ben.
We all know he's Reed's roommate from college. We know that. If we're going to see this movie, trust us that we know Victor Von Doom was Reed Richardson's.
Yes.
Whatever his damn name is.
Yeah, we got a better Dr. Doom from the hip hop scene.
That's right. You're right. But the thing is with Darth Vader is that character, when that character was created, there was no intention that he was going to be Luke's father. That was when they introduced that character, that was an afterthought. Leia being the sister.
Shit, we got to make a second movie.
Leia being the sister was an afterthought. All of those things that we think are these very constructed, thought of things. That was somebody's fever.
That vision was all a lie.
Yeah. Darth Vader, that character, we should have never taken his mask off, and if we had, we should have never shown his face, or his face should have been so disfigured that it didn't matter. And then what I think, if I were to do I did my Fantastic Four pitch. You want to see my Star Wars pitch?
You're greenlit.
Okay, here we go. We go back. This takes place in the before times, the gentler times that Obi-Wan talked about. The Jedi Council is trying to keep the peace safe in the galaxy, okay? But the thing is there's a new kind of crime happening in the galaxy. There's a kind of evil that they've never dealt with before, and their kind, gentle ways of the Jedi is just not cutting it. And mysteriously, like the Scarlet Pimpernel, this Darth Vader character comes out of nowhere and is like stopping these bad things from happening and being like a total good guy, and they are totally threatened by this new figure that's appeared on the scene. And the fact that it might be one of the Jedi that's there among them might be putting on this ruse and this disguise and being this character and doing these things. And they push this character into becoming the villain that he becomes. But we only suspect that maybe it's Anakin Skywalker, or it could even be Obi-Wan. It could be a bunch of people. And then there's the whole aspect is that there's clones. So they start cloning the Jedi because of their powers, because there's not enough of them to keep up with the weird crimes that are happening across the galaxy. So they start cloning Jedis. And so it gets really confused. And so we still have that mystery Oh, and there's a love triangle that happens to where Obi-Wan and Anakin are both in love with Padme. Okay, and so they start fighting. Anakin and Obi-Wan start fighting, and Anakin, dispatches him at some point on that volcano that we always heard about. And so when we don't know who Luke's father is, Obi-Wan could be Luke's father. Anakin could be Luke's father. Maybe it's so there's a lot. Anakin's clone could be Luke's father. There's so many things that could happen there in that 20 years, and I would have put 20 years between when that third trilogy ends and when A New Hope starts. I would have left 20 years in there. That makes no sense that Obi-Wan goes from being 45 years old to like 80 years old in one movie.
In the span of one teenager.
And there could have been a million adventures that happened in there with the Sith and the Jedi fighting each other. We don't get that. It's like you can't even put a butter knife between those movies.
Do you know what's amazing about your whole synopsis?
Yeah.
It's that's exactly the story of Rudy Giuliani from 2001 September 11th to now. It's the same. It's the same arc. So it's crazy.
Wouldn't it have been great to have 3 movies and not know who Darth Vader was?
Yes.
Just have him
revealing Darth Vader was a mistake. Telling his backstory was a mistake.
Having him just appear and just start kicking ass, wouldn't that have been awesome?
Like here's Flash Gordon. Do any of us care what Ming the Magnificent's backstory is?
No, we don't. Ming the Merciless.
Do we care? He's the Emperor of the Universe. That's all we need to know.
And I'm sure
all we need to know.
And I'm sure he's always been that. I'm sure that his dad was also Emperor of the Universe. We know his daughter's going to be. His daughter's going to be Empress of the Universe. So, there's a continuity there. We don't need to know the backstory. The Mings, Emperors, Empresses of the Universe, need to be taken down a notch. And I don't understand. He's Savior of the Universe. Dun 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 dun.
Oh, we just got a copyright strike.
Uh-oh. Is that the High Council for Human Consumption is going to come down on us like a sack of wet phone books for imitating the Flash Gordon theme?
That's worthy of it, isn't it? That's like so cheesy. It's like.
Oh yeah.
That's like right up there on the list.
They gave us the origin, but they got right to it. It's like Ming starts attacking the Earth. There's fireballs hitting the Earth. There's hot hail. What the hell's hot hail? It's happening. We got to get on a rocket and figure out what's going on. Nobody believes
that is for like 6 weeks and it didn't sell well.
no hot hail at Popeyes, delicious. Nobody knows what's going on. Dr. Zarkov's the only person who understands that we're under attack by aliens. He builds a rocket. They all come together. They go to Mongo, and then they fight the Hawkmen and the Tree Men, and that's supposed to be what it happens. That's what happens. That's what you do.
It's in the Bible.
That's right. And if they made another Flash Gordon, there would have been the Icemen and the Lava Men and the whatever men. You just got to keep finding more regional men to fight.
There's a whole bunch of elements we haven't even touched yet.
Tortoiseman will be here in 6 weeks. We must prepare.
We must fight the parking lot men.
He's just outside the gate. Trust me, it will be 6 weeks before he's here. There's plenty of time.
Oh boy, the dollar store men. They have to fight the dollar store men.
It's when somebody starts busting out a tarot deck that you know that they're gonna start running dry. But at least you'll get 26 more episodes.
Oh boy, yeah. I think that, again, it's a money game, and they're trying to hide their hand for as long as possible and give us as little as possible. They don't want that Rotten Tomatoes review that's going to make their whole empire fall down like a house of cards. So I think
that movie sucked.
Some of the best movies have got shitty reviews. My favorite movies, Buckaroo Banzai and
sure.
Big Trouble in Little China. And now Big Trouble in Little China turned out to be a great movie that everybody recognizes. But when it came out, it was panned. It was like going to end Kurt Russell's career. one of the greatest movies I think
Oh, it's
ever made.
fantastic.
Right up there with Fifth Element.
All of my favorite movies in the 80s, this is why I'm not a filmmaker, really, is because of those films. Because all of my favorite films were unsuccessful, you know? And when you start thinking about that, it's like, well, these are the kind of movies I want to make. How am I going to get people to give me money? How far can I really get in this business if my taste is so off from the general public? But Terry Gilliam's Brazil is probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
What a great film! What a great film!
Blade Runner. I remember seeing Blade Runner with my family. Everyone hated it. Everyone hated Blade Runner. When I try to talk about Blade Runner, you get shot down in 2 seconds. Oh, that movie's boring. I hated that movie. It's so dark. Blah blah blah. Love Blade Runner. I love
Carved a gun out of potato and shoe polish.
That's right. Buckaroo Banzai. Absolutely love that movie. Absolutely love Big Trouble in Little China. I went back and saw Big Trouble in Little China. I went back and saw Ice Pirates in the theater 5-6 times.
That's my secret. I thought that was a good movie. And for what it was, I thought it was a really entertaining, good movie. You know what? I also like Cherry 9000, though.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one, too.
That's a lot.
This is why they're not bad.
That's actually based on an old Outer Limits, or it might have been a
Weird Science, maybe.
No, there was a Outer Limits or a Twilight Zone where a guy is banished to a planet and his buddy brings him a robot.
Oh, that is the Twilight Zone.
And that whole Cherry 9000 is the same premise.
Okay.
At the end, if you think about it, it's the same thing. I gotta leave this robot that I love, or you know.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I never thought about that, but yeah, that is the same. The same.
Yeah,
essential...
but there's no town called Glory Hole.
Not that we know of.
Well, not in the Outer Limits episode.
I'm sure there's one in Nevada.
CBS wouldn't stand for it. CBS wouldn't stand for it. It was in there. It was in the Rod Serling script, but they took it out.
He was very insistent on that part.
I quit smoking for about 4 or 5 months, and it was this is in my 20s, very difficult time. And these days, Twilight Zones ran. You could guarantee anywhere in this country at about 12 o'clock, there would be an hour to an hour and a half of Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there one night and watching Rod Serling got on. Serling. That guy was on it too. And he took a puff off his cigarette and submitted for your approval. And I got up and got my Baja Blast and drove to 7-Eleven and bought a pack of cigarettes and smoked for like 10 more years. It's such a trigger. The guy was such an institution and exuded so much suave and coolness and horror. And everything about that guy was just shit. I know some devil shit's going on, man. Night Gallery was even better than Twilight Zone, and that was even crazier, but it didn't matter. That guy could smoke a cigarette. He'd make Frank Sinatra look stupid. Rod Stern's like, oh, that's how you're gonna hold it, Frank?
The thing about Rod Serling for me, and obviously I'm definitely inspired by Rod Serling and I loved Alfred Hitchcock's introductions too. I always thought they were real dry and really sharp and really funny. But what was interesting about Rod Serling is that he was so detached from everything. Like, you'd never imagine having a beer with Rod Serling. You can't imagine him dropping his kids off at soccer practice. He just lives in this formless void and is this kind of
I was convinced he's in that mirror. He's in my mirror somewhere. He's not a real like you as a little kid. What? TV shows aren't real? I'm like, Rod Serling? He's that demon guy in the mirror when I drink too much that comes out, you know?
And he was so moral. Like, I feel like all of my moral compass comes from the Twilight Zone. Like, I feel like that taught me more than my parents or school or church or anything else. Like, I feel like if you have any kind of greed or avarice or any kind of prejudice, man, Rod Serling had your number and he was going to make you pay.
Yeah, eventually someone's going to pop the lid open on your reality, and then you're all just going to tumble down.
Yep, indeed. Absolutely. How long have we been talking now? 7 hours?
About 3 shows worth. It's gonna we're
Am I sleeping over?
We got VHS tapes.
When you were a kid, did you do this? I used to do this. We didn't have VCRs or anything yet. Before before they had it, I had a little cassette recorder.
Yeah.
So when my good shows would come on, I would hit record on my cassette recorder and I would record them, and then I'd go over to my friend's house and we'd listen to our tapes of our recorded shows that we had both seen the night before.
Yeah, I totally did that. It was one of those giant ones that either it took 9 D-cell batteries or it plugged into the wall, and then you'd have to press the red and white button together at the same time.
Yeah.
And then the really frustrating thing is I'd try to cut the commercials out. So sometimes I'd start recording and then it would be like, there's more in the middle of an egg McMuffin than an egg in the middle of oh crap, and then I'd stop it. And then I'd try to rewind it, and I'd listen to the last part of the show, and I'd try to wait till the sound fades out, and pause record, and then put it up to the TV, and then it fades to black again, and then I start recording, and then it's another dumb commercial, zestfully clean, oh shit, and then you stop it again, and then you get it queued up, and then finally you start it just at the right time, right when the thing starts, or maybe you miss 2 seconds. You end up missing the first 2-3 seconds of what Rod Serling's saying, or what's happening in that.
It was always wasn't it interesting that you get the "will be right." Oh, go ahead, Peace.
What?
Who's going?
I'm sorry. I said this is why our parents could get so shit faced on Friday night, because they knew on Saturday we just gonna be fucking with the tape recorder all day. Oh, don't worry about it. Put some tracks on it. Come on, woman, we're going to bed.
Well, you would always get the bumpers on the way out that says, "We'll be back after these messages."
So good.
But
Thank
it would
you
just
for letting mommy sleep in and playing with your tape recorder and watching those cartoons. So good. That's fantastic. Yeah.
I think we grew up on the same.
I was a good kid because I never asked for anything. I just drew cartoons and read comic books and watched television. I didn't cry. I didn't talk.
You could take $1. Your parents
This entire meals.
And you could go down to 7-Eleven and literally with $1 you could buy 4 or 5 comic books, a candy bar, a popsicle, and maybe even a bottle of soda. For $1, you get 6 cents back in change. You could buy a house with that, at least put the down payment down.
Yeah.
But it was amazing what we get for $1. And 7-Elevens had, they weren't just a convenience store. We had red and white in my neighborhood. But you'd go in there and they'd have this one little rack at the end with all these toys, cap guns, a couple army soldiers. So you would literally go in there with your $1. You'd look at the comic books, the toys that they had, the candy. You do these intense calculations in your head. I can get these 3 comic books, 2 candy bars, a cap gun, and some Swedish fish with a fortune-telling fish inside of it. Oh, I'm getting the extra dime. Okay, I'm gonna get 4 comic books, 1 Swedish fish with the fish that tells your fortune in it, and some of this candy that I really don't like, but maybe I can trade it to one of the other dumb kids for their comic books. It would take you 4 hours to get your $1.
Yeah.
It wasn't feasible for me.
It was what?
It wasn't feasible for me.
Yeah.
My by the time I was the age to get into them, we had the 1-wire rack at Kroger. And they were $4 and $5 a piece. It's half your weekly allowance on a book, and you tend to go through them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I remember being outraged when Marvel, they put this big starburst on their comics, and it said still only a dime. And whenever they did that, and when they went to a quarter, first they went from a dime to 15 cents. Then 15 cents to a quarter, then a quarter to 35 cents. Then they made this huge jump to like $1. And you always knew you were fucked when they had that starburst on them. Because the price used to be a little square box, and underneath that, the Comic Association of Freedom, this comic's approved to not turn you into a communist.
Yeah.
And if that price thing turned into a starburst, you knew pretty soon your $1 wasn't going to cut it no more.
Yeah. I feel like it went from 35 to 60 and then $1. It jumped fast though. It jumped pretty damn fast. I love Mad Magazine where it was like 90 cents.
Cheap. That was my first foray into the legal world of weird, I guess. I grew up with the Iron Curtain of Christ. around my house, and so everything was filtered. Everything was filtered
Yeah.
through. But my mom was obviously a deviant in her younger years, and she knew who Wolverine was. But the good little Christian kids weren't reading that. And Mad Magazine, it was George Carlin and Mad Magazine totally saved me. And Nickelodeon Magazine, that was actually a really good publication with a lot of cool contributions from professional comic books and underground artists and stuff like that.
There was something
A lot of people
magical in the
don't know that
90s happening with animation. Don't you agree,
It's it's
Dr. Fox?
as the resident cartoon nerd, the 90s, like 87, 88 through 98 were the best years of animation since like the Fleischer era, when
Yeah, I mean,
creators were given
A lot of
freedom
people don't
to
understand
create.
that, Nickelodeon magazine had a lot to do with the Berlin Wall falling. And a lot of Nickelodeon magazines into East Germany and Soviet Russia, and that was the downfall of communism. So not only was it amusing and entertaining for America's youth, but it also brought freedom to most of Eastern Europe.
I worked at now speaking of, we're talking about the 90s, and yes, Nickelodeon was a big part of that, but MTV and not Viacom, and even though they're evil, they somehow thought we could just screw a bunch of artists and they will make this wonderful stuff for us, and we can get rich off of their backs. But the byproduct of that is we got some very amazing animation. We talked earlier about Batman the Animated Series, which was incredible. It had aspects of that radio drama stuff that you were talking about. It had aspects of the Fleischer stuff that you were just talking about, Dr. Fox. But then there was this, the level of quality there was very cinematic. And then you had Ren and Stimpy, which was incredible and changed a whole lot as far as the kind of humor. And it meant so much more because it wasn't supposed to be there. It was so subversive that it was kind of slipping in under the radar at Saturday mornings on Nickelodeon. And then you had things like Rocko's Modern Life, and you had things on MTV like Liquid Television.
Oh yeah, the Max.
Right?
Totally cashing in that animation isn't just for little kids. And there was stuff on network television that was pushing it too. If you ever saw Sam and Max Freelance Police by Steve Purcell.
I always wondered, like, how did this get on television?
They swear on that. I mean, they say God. They say the full three-letter God word. They plunge into a literal hell on earth, as quoted from the show. And there's guns. There's realistic guns and firearms, which were a big no-no because in the 80s, when everything was getting pumped to kids, because the big hangover there. Well,
we did a big pitch to Fox for an animated show that I wrote and did a comic of, and that was the one thing, is that they didn't want any of the guns to look realistic. So yeah, I totally know all about that.
It's so crazy.
You can't start a fire on network television on a children's program.
I had an M16 rifle that looked like it came from Camp Pendleton, Oceanside, California. I walked down the street with it. Me and my friends would be shooting each other for 3 or 4 days. It's just now you can't even do that with a Nerf gun.
Are you kidding? Look at what they're doing on Cartoon Network. Regular Show had a realistic firearms shootout with guns, with cops firing guns at other characters, and the characters getting shot. They're robots, because that's okay, like the Samurai Jack rule. But no, they shoot people. And then there was another thing I saw the other day where somebody lit a match. Like, you can't do that on the network shows because they're still under that FCC flag.
Yeah, the streaming stuff is really going crazy with that. I know that when I started at a streaming network, they kept saying, "Can you do these things? Can you swear more? Can you have more objectionable content? Can you smoke?"
Yeah, and you're working with subgeniuses too. So.
And that's the funny thing, is that they were
Lobo,
asked.
how do you feel about putting more pornography into the show?
That's the streaming world, is that you've got the suits telling you that your show isn't objectionable enough.
You've got to be outrageous.
We've only received 8 letters from a church, and we're really looking for a big movement, maybe a boycott. Can you do something to stir up somebody enough to where they want us to boycott you?
That is.
Can you write any voter laws?
That is one of the bane of my career because I've never been quite. I'm not too edgy, and I've never been family friendly. I've always been in this weird kind of twilight between those things, and it's like I can't quite totally fit in on the one side and get that Disney money, and I can't totally fit in on the other side, either. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what. I just sort of do what I think is funny, but I also kind of feel like I want normal people to find what we're doing. I want to infect normal people with this stuff. I mean, it's fine to just do things in an echo chamber with people who think the same way that you do, but I want to find that next 8, 10, 12-year-old who's going to accidentally find the show, and it's going to
Can I ask you a serious question?
Pull them into a whole world of weirdness their whole life. Yeah.
Mr. Lobo?
Yes.
Are you Q?
Am I? Am I Q?
Yes, are you Q? Some people have said you're Q.
I don't know if I can. If I said no, would you believe me?
You gotta wait for the big DVD release piece.
My middle initial is Q, though, in real life.
My middle initial is Q in Subgenius Land.
Oh, in Subgenius Land, yeah. So there's it's interesting when there's all like John Q Public. My middle initial actually is a Q. So I always thought that was. I don't know how many Q names are there to where that the generic name would have a Q for a middle initial.
Quentin.
Yeah. Okay. And
one.
Quincy.
Yeah. Quincy. Mm-hmm.
Quiblo.
Quincy is 2.
What is it?
Quiblo.
I thought we were
Quiblo. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Quiet, please.
I feel like
that was my nickname as a kid.
Moby Dick. The guy wrote Moby Dick had some guy that his name with Q in it.
Quint, right? That's Jaws.
That's
Yeah.
Jaws. We're gonna need a bigger whale.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you guys something I've never talked about. My name when I was in the womb, my mom and my parents watched so much television. I was going to be named Quinn Martin Lobo. Was going to be my name, named after the Quinn Martin productions like Streets of San Francisco and Mannix and M Squad and all those old TV shows, The Invaders. My parents watched so much damn TV that I was going to be Quinn Martin Lobo up until the 11th hour, and then they went, oh boy, he's going to get teased, so let's not do that.
Stick with Eric.
But the Quinn moved to the middle name, and then I had my first name, which we don't ever talk about, Peas.
I didn't say anything.
You did. That's fine.
Shut up. Just move on.
I'm sure you call the Easter Bunny Peter, right? When he's on your show,
Mr. Peter.
Yes, Mr. Peter. But it was interesting that I had 5 friends that had the same first name as a kid. That is like the most like generic suburban first name. So I was always Lobo. Hey Lobo. Lobo. So Mr. Lobo was a very easy transition.
I would have killed to be called Lobo.
We had a gang of Steves.
It's like the best name ever. Hey dude, what are you gonna do? Going over to Lobo's house and play some ball, man. Oh, I gotta go. Let me get my skates.
That's way too physical. It would have been going to Lobo's house to play Legos.
My nickname was
Pinner.
My nickname was Pinner.
Pinner.
Pinner. You know what Pinner is?
No.
Pinner is a really weak, tiny toothpick-shaped joint. And because I grew up in a coastal side suburb, a little bit of a surfer stoner dude,
yeah.
and I was everyone called me Pinner. I would have killed to be called Lobo. I would have got laid at 15 if I'd have been called Lobo. I had to pay some Mexican chick in Tijuana when I was in the Air Force to lose my virginity because my nickname was Pinner.
Lobo was not cool.
Mexican chick said,
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think Lobo was cool enough to hang out with the pitters of the world in that part of my life.
Cool nickname when you were a kid.
We
I
were
feel
warned
like
about the
there was even a movie
pitters.
called that. There was even a movie called Lobo.
People ruthlessly teased me. Yeah, Sheriff Lobo was one thing.
I forgot about Sheriff Lobo.
When BJ and the Bear happened, ruthless, never-ending Sheriff Lobos from everywhere. Lobo from Bride of the Monster, who is Tora Johnson, also the time for go to bed. There was that Lobo. There was the song, I forgot there was the hits. There was a recording artist named Lobo, and he had like a dumb, baby, I want you to want me, right? Isn't that Lobo? The way that it should be, that song. You know what I'm talking about?
Sounds like the Abbott Brothers.
Yeah, the YouTube algorithms on you are great.
Is it? Is it already coming up? Anyhow, Lobo had a song. There was Sheriff Lobo. There was some things in pop culture, but I was ruthlessly teased all the time for Lobo. And then it was always be like homo or low blow, Mr. Low Blow, Mr. Homo.
I can think of 1,000 things to call you now. Maybe it's not.
It wasn't cool.
Not as progressive.
It wasn't cool.
Cool now, though.
What?
Cool
No.
now.
That's okay. I don't need to be cool. I'd rather be warm than cool.
You can do that if you pitter on yourself.
Huh?
Only at first. It's only warm at first.
It's only warm at first. That should be the motto of this podcast.
I got a poem about L. Ron Hubbard being a drummer.
Oh yeah, L. Ron Hubbard was a drummer.
Well, they're hard to find. In this case, he was.
Okay, all right.
Well, I'm going to perform it at X Day. So if you listen to X Day, which is going to be held in Land of Lakes, Florida, the fabulous new location of saucer pickups known throughout the world. Well, Fox and I and a lot of our friends. I like saying Fox and friends because it makes me feel like we're a big network. But the thing about it is we're going to have a whole interactive on-site live show like the Little Rascals did for Hal Roach, and we're also going to incorporate the live streaming of other people from other parts of the country, much like you're doing with Dr. Hal. And so it's going to be a multimedia extravaganza that's never seen the light. And the thing about it is it's sad a little bit when I think about it that we're finally going to do X Day right. And it'll be the last X Day because, of course, it's this time for sure, kids. This time,
all bets are off.
If it's not 1998 now, I don't know when it is.
No more bets. No more bets.
Yeah.
And the ball is spinning right now.
Yeah. So the pleasure saucers are going to come get y'all, right?
Yep, we're constructing our big pylon beacon. We'll be generating a psychoustics signal. That's where all the hypercube science, super science, is going into.
Maybe you guys can swing by and pick me up if I'm unable to be there in person.
There's one thing I hope that you're going to take away from being on our show, and I like to explain to people our show
instant
is kind
regret
of between the philosophies of the Church of the Subgenius into the realities of what cubism is. And so the first
hypercubism
once you've taken in all of Bob's knowledge, you then need the knowledge that Dr. Fox and I bestow upon you. And our first tenet, and this is something that you will find very useful in your career, I think, is don't think. The more you think, the more you worry. The more you think, the more obstacles come up into your path. But if you don't think about anything at all, things magically just happen of a mystical and just crazy, wacky stuff, man. I don't know what to tell you. I would try to explain it to you, but that would involve thinking, and that violates the tenet of Buddhism. So,
I think I'm off.
To walk away knowing that. All right. And I think that we're going to give you a free membership to the hypercubism. Dr. Fox, you can arrange that, can't you? And if there's any monetary involvement that's needed to make this be free to Mr. Lobo, please put that.
Yeah, this one will cost triple.
I would like him to have the membership pack because I feel it's important knowledge for him to have.
Well, I feel like I'm already on the right path because I was only half listening to what you were saying.
There you go. That's exactly how it works, my friend.
Awesome.
You may one day be a pope.
I hope so. One day I hope to be a pope. I'd love to have a pope mobile with a big dome. So
When
like,
the mob comes for Fox and I, we
Yeah.
want you to pick up the mantle and
Okay.
continue as the sacred scribe.
You know that
All right,
Pope
I'll do
Mobile's
my
just
best.
a big Pepper's ghost illusion. He's not really even in there. It's just a little Pope figure, just bobble waving.
Oh, you mean it's like one of those weird holograms where you need to see, you need to look through the dome so he's even there. If the dome were
One
gone,
time
you wouldn't see him at all.
Yeah, but that's the
One time they messed
the
up and it was
mysticism of Thy
Tupac
Holiness.
in the car.
What?
One time they messed up and they put the wrong hologram in there, and it was
Oh.
Tupac. And they had to shut it down real quick. 'Cause they're like, oh, yeah, people would understand Kanye, but Tupac, no, we gotta stop that.
What was weird was all the kids in their robes knew the exact gang signs to flash.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That is interesting. That is, maybe it's not weird. Maybe there's some meaning to that.
Free the Vatican 8.
I think that I could sort of imagine like the Pope mobile's coming, and then you see the Pope, and then Tupac appears next to him, and then Yoda and Obi-Wan and
I'm
Anakin.
Biggie Smalls.
Followed
Yeah,
by the
Biggie
Oscar
Smalls.
Mayer Wienermobile.
Yes.
Smalls is
The
driving
best two
Pope.
mobiles in the world.
And then Sue Richards comes out and just makes
God damn, dude, you nailed it again. It's crazy. I see it now. Page 2, third page. Man.
Sue Richard comes out and makes that dome that protects them. But yeah, I don't know. Again, it's like, everyone likes to be Monday Morning Lucas. I know it's hard to make movies, and really making a movie like that is like being mayor of special effects town. And I understand that there's just a million questions and a million problems. But I do feel like we get the short stick as far as they don't want to give us original stories. They don't want the characters to be too unusual or too wacky. I'm tired of superheroes looking like bikers or paramilitary. If I could throw a car, I would buy a cape the same day. Flamboyancy is not hard to explain. Look at wrestlers. If you look at wrestlers dress ridiculous. Why? Because they can kill you if you say anything about what they look like.
Yeah, I was going to ask you earlier, how's Chris Jericho doing?
I hope he's in a ditch somewhere. Actually. But it's interesting because I got a letter from a youngster asking what it's like to be involved in wrestling, and I said, I'm not involved in wrestling. A wrestler called me a fag on stage. That doesn't make me involved in wrestling.
Do you think he was being in character, being a heel, or do you think Chris Jericho's kind of a
Because they're
jerk?
supposed to. If he was under contract, if he's on an asshole contract, he's supposed to stay. I forget what it's like, on key or something like that.
No, you're talking about kayfabe, right? Where you're supposed to stay in character everywhere
Yeah.
you go. This was the situation as I understood it. Is that he had a small role in a horror movie called Animal Farm at a film festival I was hosting. They kept saying you're going to interview him on stage. I said fine, and then 5 minutes later, like, he doesn't want to do the interview. He's too drunk. That's fine. And then 5 minutes later, no, he's still going to do the interview. Okay, that's fine. Okay, yeah, he doesn't want to do the interview. He thinks he's too drunk. That's fine too. And then at the last minute, he shows up on stage. Now, I've got the director of the film there. He's in this movie all of 10 minutes, okay? He's completely dominating the whole conversation. He's attacking people in the audience, telling that the people who were there for the midnight show are a bunch of nerds. And he's trying to play the heel. I understand that. But he's doing it in a really ham-fisted and
Not very good at it.
not very good way because he's drunk. So he's not on point. He's not in character. He's just a jerk. So then I'm trying to get a little bit out of the director, because this is a much bigger deal for the director to be at a film festival where his film is shown than some wrestler, right? So it's like, so I'm trying to get his input, and Chris Jericho is being more obnoxious, and I do this funny thing where I pretend to smell his drink. I take his glass out of his hand and I smell his drink and hand it back to him, and he says, "It's apple juice, fag."
Kramer moment. Yeah, he has this Kramer moment. That's when the crowd turns on you.
And then it just goes from there, and then he starts calling me racial epithets like Haji, which I suppose he saw what a brown kid wants on Johnny Quest, and for the rest of his life,
I was going to say that.
that was the only ammunition he had in his back pocket. So
I feel.
Was
I
he
feel
drinking
bad
apple
for, like,
juice?
30 years.
it was not apple juice. The other
I
thing
feel bad
is,
for 30 years. I thought Haji was cool. I didn't realize that Johnny Quest was just super racist.
I mean, Haji kind of was cool, you know. I mean,
In the show he was, it turns out in retrospect. But it
Yeah.
wasn't. So I read the thing about that too. And it really wasn't. I'm like, it's not apple juice. That's got to be bourbon or some goddamn thing.
the whole point is
Hot
that
piss.
it was on TMZ. It was on TMZ, and for a week I couldn't leave my house because I had wrestling fans saying that I was trying to ride Chris Jericho's coattails, and I'm a crybaby, and I wasn't a crybaby. We just did our show as normal. I didn't even stop the show. We just, like, he called me a fag, and I didn't stop a beat. We just kept going.
Keep going.
Right? So it wasn't like I stopped the show. It wasn't like I went and cried to the press. They made a big deal out of it, and then they made up a bunch of things that I reacted that I never said. It's like, a host of film festival says that Chris Jericho's an arrogant asshole. I never said any of those words.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And
Then
so
let me ask you
and
something.
then Chris Jericho said that we went to a bar together and had a laugh about it, and that it was all an Andy Kaufman stunt that we just planned from the beginning, and that's not true either. And so I called them and I said, I don't think it's fair that you're saying that I've said these things when I didn't say anything. You didn't interview me. And they said, well, well, let's hear your side of it. And I said, well, do you think they asked me, do you think if Chris Jericho made an apology, would you accept it? And I said, I don't need an apology from Chris Jericho. Secondly, I don't think an apology from Chris Jericho would be genuine anyway. And so anyhow,
And they print that immediately.
it's one of those things that it got so bad that I had people threatening my life practically. And so I did this fake press conference that I gave to TMZ first, where I'm making fun of myself and I'm making fun of the festival. I did this very satirical thing. It could have been a bit on one of my shows, but it forced everyone there to see me doing my shtick as Mr. Lobo, and that they understand that I'm a person with a sense of humor, and that I'm not part of their thing, because everyone was benefiting from this. TMZ was getting ratings. Chris Jericho was getting his fans backing him up.
Everybody's getting something except for Mr. Lobo.
I wasn't getting anything of it, and I don't think I got one more viewer, one more fan from that experience. I think he lost some, but I didn't gain any. Okay, so I did this. I did this satirical spoof of a press conference, and once that aired, that's right. I challenged him to thumb wrestling, and he conceded. He said, "I'm the man," and so that's it. But the thing is that once I did that, once humor was injected into that tabloid drama, turned to vapor.
We'll need to remember that.
I'm curious about something.
Turned to vapor.
Curious about something.
Went away.
I'm going to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Earlier you talked about, we talked about your name, and I thought it was a really cool name, and you're like, no, Peas. I got teased a lot for that name.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool now, but at the time, I got teased a lot. Now, I identified a lot with when you said that because, I made that little joke about being called Penner. But I was also teased a lot in high school, and I felt that one of the benefits of that at the time, it's a painful, terrible experience to go through. But if you survive it, and unfortunately some kids don't, but if you do survive it, you develop a skin, it helps your humor a little bit, and it enables you to get yourself out of situations sometimes where a normal person that hasn't been teased would flip out and react in a totally anger from a place of anger or defense and whatnot. And I know the story that you told and how you handled it with the thumb. It really seems to me that you were able to handle it that way to some extent because you had already developed your armor from being that kid that got teased. So you're not gonna. You're so used to. And this, I'm speaking for my own self, and if I'm interjecting thoughts or feelings on you, I don't mean to. But I'd like to know if it's the same thing. I was able to withstand a lot of stuff as an adult or a young adult and stuff because I had been teased so mercilessly and middle school that I was very quick at the comeback, and I knew not to take things very personally. That this would all pass, and whoever was the funniest at the end was the person that people would respect the most. And I'm wondering if that reaction you had to this guy came from that. Do you have the same kind of growth or experience in your own life with that kind of stuff?
Um, yes.
All right, I thought you did.
Oh, that whole time I was looking at Dr. Fox and I'm thinking, wow, he has to deal with you every week.
You said earlier that you only heard half of what he said. That's how I make it through an hour.
No, but to go back to your question, you're suggesting a boy named Sue kind of situation. And I think it is a little bit of that. I think that one of the things that I really like about this is that it's not cool at all. And the reason that I like that and I find that I guess there's some power to that is because I don't need to be cool. I don't need people to like me. I'm not always afraid that I'm going to fall out with my crowd or, I'm not going to be accepted here or accepted there. And so I like being an outsider. I like being not being a joiner. I like being detached from all the cliques and the groups. And I think that makes my humor better. But it also, none of those people can hurt me either because they've got nothing on me. And I don't want to be part of whatever they've got. So I think that that's where my humor is developed. I think that that's where my strength is. I always think about the iconoclasts on television growing up, Mr. Spock and Doctor Who and Roy Orbison and these people who were so strange and dorpy and derpy and they still function. They don't care if people don't understand them. And I like that.
You inspired me. I went and grabbed my Dr. Fox jacket that I did not put on earlier tonight. I got a button too.
What does your button say, Dr. Fox?
It says "Don't think" multiple times with a nice little hypercube.
Do I get one of those buttons?
Yeah, I will totally hook you up with a membership kit. Yeah, because we've started that. You've got a membership kit, right?
I'll trade you. I'll send you guys a membership kit.
All right, I will totally hook you up with a
one each or one for us to share.
You can look at it at X Day, Peas.
Wait, are you sending me one kit? Or are you sending me two?
Yeah, Peas. Now you're working into money. That's inventory.
We'll work it out.
We'll make it happen. We'll hook that up.
Triology soap.
And some definitely our sponsor Triology soaps.
Triology soaps.
Well, Mr. Lobo, I
yes.
gotta tell you something. I've had the best show and the most fun doing this that I've had in a long time. You're such an interesting person, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. It's always nice to see people dedicated to their art, and you're just really. And I'm not saying this to be funny or anything. It really does come from the heart. This is what makes America great: is that you have a vision, you have a dream, you have something you want to share with people. It doesn't matter what it involves. You're able to go do it, and you've done it with such aplomb and such greatness. It's really it's wonderful to meet you and have these in-depth conversation with you. I look forward to having many more conversations with you in the future. But thank you so much for coming. I'm sorry it took us 156 shows to get just good enough to have you on, but thank God we put the work in, and here you are, and what a wonderful night I've had.
I feel like we've put in 156 shows worth of content just tonight.
We've got quite a backlog for you.
But I tell you, those things you say are very meaningful to me, and I appreciate it very much. When you make a show and you make something like this, and I'm sure it's the same with what you do, it's a message in a bottle, and you put it out there, and you find people who appreciate it, and people who you're akin to, or people who are part of your tribe, or people who understand what you're trying to say, or the intention of what you're trying to do. That means a lot, and it's certainly I've been so overcome by how welcoming people from Subgenius in general have been toward Cinema Insomnia and OSI 74.
Lucky you.
They don't care for us too much.
They don't like you too much, huh?
No, we're the
that's-
mean ones.
Are you the black
They're a
sheep
fickle
of the black sheep of the black sheep? Is that
I'm
what
I'm
this
the
is?
little subgenius that could, but not should.
Uh-huh. All right. Wow. I'm getting some tea here. I'm getting some dirt here.
Yeah, we're in the fun camp. We're those guys. But hey, we're putting on X Day, so
by many subgeniuses because we actually do something. And most subgeniuses are against anyone doing anything. They like to talk about things a lot, but they don't like people that do things. That's against the rules.
I mean, that is just every artist, every clique of of artists in general. It is more about what you're not doing, and I always feel like we could all avoid criticism by just simply doing nothing.
well, that worked for a little bit.
They don't want to talk about me
Then
on
just all the
Tuesday, though,
existential
and I
dread
like it.
starts creeping back in. This has been a rough year for me because I do live shows too.
Yeah.
I'm already getting ready to jump back into 2 live bands, and we're
Yeah.
talking about tours and stuff. It's been a year. And even though I've missed it, I'm scared to go back into it.
If you make other I feel like if you're making other subgeniuses upset, you're doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always stuck with if you can't think of something nice, say it to a subgenius.
Yeah.
They'll know what to do with it.
Yep.
Or you can tell them / show them.
Wow. Well, like I said, I mean, I had a blast tonight. I think that this definitely encompasses my idea of some subversive art. So
if you want to use the A word.
I applaud what you're doing.
I appreciate you coming on, and it's been a total delight having you here. I was spazzing out all day. I mean, I even went in and had some invasive procedures done today. I had I was stressed out. They told me I wasn't going to be
gallbladder removed just for the occasion.
I actually had 2 5-inch needles driven into my
Mr. Lobo
neck.
hates golf. Get it out of me right now.
And they were like, "You're not going to be able to drive after this." And I was worried that I was going to pass out in the first 10 minutes just being here. So I can't believe that we went as long. So you went into like double, triple overtime. And
the doctor told me he couldn't drive when he got the shot. He goes, "Is it like acid?"
I did check my hand after they doped me up. I told him I actually was telling him what I was getting ready to do tonight. And he said, "Well, just tell him that you got harpooned earlier." And I said, "Well, can I get a prescription for some nitrous oxide?" And the guy literally tells me to go to the supermarket, get some Ready Whip. You'll have a great night.
That's expensive. $3 a can.
Doctor prescribed whippets to you.
Yeah, totally. So going back there for that.
Ready Whip, which just goes to show you Big Pharma got in the middle again. Rather than buying Whippets direct, which you can get 50 for like $20, the doctor
Yes.
wants you to go to Big Dairy and spend
The
$3.
Pfizer Kraft
for a
connection.
can of-
Was there a Ready Whip poster in his office
Yeah.
on the wall?
It had a cutout and showed
Dairy's
the
already
insides
got
of it.
Big Dairy's already gotten to
Big
that doctor.
Dairy got to our doctor. Hilarious. Well,
Oh,
thank
eat enough cream.
thank you so much. I'm really bad at taking compliments, but I certainly appreciate that you guys think that having me on means something. Oh, that's right. You don't think.
We don't think.
I'm glad that you appreciate me being on, and again, I'm glad we were finally able to do it. Again, I could certainly talk for another 6 hours. At some point, I think my wife is going to come down the stairs with a shotgun, and it might not be a toy shotgun. It might be a real shotgun.
Look for the orange tip.
That's what she always says.
Glow in the dark.
So you know. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. I
Yes.
myself am going to go.
Yep.
And to adventures and conversations in the future, my friend. I look forward to this not being our only conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Have me back on again in 300 episodes, and
And I'll answer the emails in time. I have a
It'll only need to technically be 153 more.
Oh, okay, 153 more. Okay, all right. We'll make it a tradition. Every 153 episodes.
2024.
Well, I'll do the big sign out then for Reverend
All right,
Peace.
let's do
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Lobo. I'm Dr. Fox. You've been listening to Time for the Show, broadcast live on youtube.com/hypercubego. You can subscribe to the podcast at www.timefortheshow.com. Get your name in the shout-outs at patreon.com/hypercube. And don't forget to go to packslack.com, pick up your Triology soaps, and tonight's musical break 5 days ago was Anna Barnes Used to Do. She'll be performing at X Day, won't you?